Fresh. Okay, we are streaming. Good. Okay. Hey. All right. Great. Yep, that's the one. Hey. Okay. All right. Good. 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 Looks like everything is coming out solid. Good. Let's see. Need the. Where's the chat doc? View. View. Chat. 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 Maybe it'll come up. No. Hmm. All right. Cool. So it looks like everything is good. Welcome to the sound check portion of the stream, y'all. Yeah, maybe the chat will come up later. I don't know, but regardless, looks like everything's coming up good. Great. Yeah, I'm just trying out a slightly new setup here. I have a well, it's not a new mic, but I've used it before in videos, but I haven't used it in a live stream setting before. So it's the Deity, it's like their version of the Video Mic Me, basically. Yeah, that rhymed. Or the Video Micro, I think, technically. One of those two. Um, and I found out that I could just plug it into my computer and use it as a mic, and then just have it propped up with this little tripod thing that I have. So I figure, in lieu of an actual for realsies mic, we'll just use this for the time being. And then I do want to save up to get the Shure mic like I had before, because I really missed the quality of that. That mic was just peak when it came to mic quality. And they have a newer version out too, which I would love to get, but money's kind of tight right now. So, I mean, I'd be totally fine with the old version, but that new version can get it too. Yo, what's going on, common commenter? How you doing today? Put it in live chat so I can see everybody. Good, good. Let's see if get things going. Okay, cool. I wish we had like a chat window up here. There used to be. I don't know what happened, but regardless, I'm gonna go ahead and share this out so more people know that I'm out here. Maybe I'll find it later. I don't know, but it used to be on here. It's weird. Regardless, I'll be here all day if I tried looking for that shit. Anyway, so let's go ahead and share this out and get rock and rolling with the stream proper, because I wanted to get through some updates and do some little watch-alongs. Feel a little nostalgic, I guess, with some old school themed content. It's newer videos, but they're themed after older stuff. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and blast this out real quick. All right. Okay. Boop. See, make it a little faster, I guess. Okay. Don't know how many people will get that one. And just hop on the old. No, not that one. Let's do Discord. I always feel weird like putting the live links on Twitter or X, whatever, just because I'm not live for like super duper long, but it does always feel kind of weird, I guess. No data, huh? Let me switch it real quick. Excellent. Oh, I guess we're back. Okay, never mind. Was gonna switch the connection, but I guess we're good now. So cool. Yep. So we got it there. Let's my stuff. Huh. Okay. Boop. Oops. Hey. And in a while. Yeah, I used to be on Discord a lot, and would watch a lot of the discussion and everything. But now it's just the full-time job. It's so fucking hard, you know. Um, but yep, we got that going. Great. Let's see, yo, Beto, what's up, man? Vacation? Yeah, today's my last day of vacation. I go back to work tomorrow, so it was a fun 2 weeks while it lasted, basically. um, and then I might be getting a vacation sooner rather than later. Oh, Reds, I didn't see you there, bud. What's going on? But yeah, I might be getting a vacation sooner rather than later, though, with this typhoon coming in. Well, not a vacation. It'll just be working from home, so won't technically be off. But yeah, supposedly there's a typhoon coming in on Tuesday, leading into Wednesday. But the main part of it's going to be on Tuesday, so I might be not having to go into work that day, but I'll still have to like work from home basically. So it's like, you know, get to chill out here. It's all good. Yeah, basically, shelter. It's a little staycation, I guess you could say. Um, but yeah, just been going through it this vacation actually. Um, it's kind of hard for me to take breaks, to be honest with you guys, because I'm always thinking of stuff to do or things I should be doing that I've like put off um, because I've been busy with work or other things have been going on. And I figure like with the vacation, I actually have the time to be able to do those things. And one of those things was supposed to clean up that side of the room, which is why this camera's on this side, so you don't have to see the fucking disaster piece going on over there. But I'll give you guys a little peek over there anyway. So, um, yeah, look at all that fucking shit. I still have to take out trash though. That's pretty easy. But the other stuff in the corner, um, yeah, that's got to get taken care of, like old boxes and stuff. I did get a I don't know if you guys can see it looking at my finger. I got a one of those beach tents right here. Got one of those beach tents and then a little clip-on umbrella for my chair for like 1750 yen altogether. So like $15 in the Burger Bucks. So I got that on heavy discount from Donkey. I was out and about that area, which is nice. Um, and since summer's apparently going away, according to the calendar, they gave me a pretty substantial discount. But if you've read the news, the high temperatures are going to be persisting all the way through October, apparently. So I told my friend Zach, he runs a lot of beach themed events. Like, you might as well just plan a Halloween beach event at this rate. Half joking, of course, but we'll see. Regardless, since I live out here in the Shonan area in Kanagawa, um, obviously typhoons are that was most definitely a donkey bargain. Like, usually, because I wanted to get one last year, but when they finally were on sale, I couldn't get a good tent. Like, the ones that were on sale were like kind of shitty, or they were just like a weird style, or they were kind of bland, and I'm just like, not really feeling it. But this one is just like a standard blue tent. I just wanted something blue, sue me. um, and managed to get one of those. I got the little blue and green clip-on umbrella parasol deal. It's basically like a fishing umbrella, so you don't get the sun beating on your face as much. Got that for a cool 50 yen. So the main, like 1,700 yen for the tent, 50 yen for the clip-on umbrella. So like that shit was a fucking steal any day of the week. So I'm like, I have to get this, no doubt. So, but yeah, even when during like the cooler months where you can't go in the ocean too much because it gets too cold. Okay, yeah, sorry for the reconnect disconnect sort of deal. Oh yeah, 100%, man. Like, it's it's totally worth it. I started noticing it a bit more because usually like when I go to like these beach events and stuff like that, I'm there to like hang out with friends, and usually they want to like go in the water for a little bit and then come out, and if we're talking, we're like all standing up and stuff. So I always feel weird like bringing my chair or anything like that for stuff like that. But I think for just kind of solo adventures or just stuff that's a bit more local to where I'm at, I think it'd be fine. Like I said, just chill out, hang out with me, myself, and I. Have a nice little lunch or something like that on a weekend where the weather's nice, but it's you can't go in the water, but you can just kind of walk to the beach, set up the tent, and just chill. You know, I think that's like my favorite time to go to the beach. Actually, is in the winter time, as long as it's not raining or anything like that. Just because there's really nobody there, and the beaches are all cleared out, so you can get really lovely pictures out there. A lot of my favorite pictures of the beach where I'm at are from the winter time because the skies are nice and clear. There's no beach huts or anything like that going on. Hardly anybody's there. So it's just super easy to get those pictures. Like on a super clear day, you can even see Mount Fuji pretty easily. So I got a couple of those pictures as well. Um, but I am looking forward to getting some more in the cooler months, you know. But yeah, like yesterday, my friends and I went out to Enoshima, just hang out. So that was nice. I got to see them for the first time in forever. I've been kind of laying low for a while just because, you know, money has been a little tight. Well, not really tight, it's just been like on and off, you know. Like there's times where money's pretty decent, and then other times where not so much. Um, so I've been doing a lot of thinking about that as well. Maybe getting something else going here in Japan aside from my current line of work. Um, but yeah, I would like to, strike out on my own, do my own business, do my own thing out here. Um, I do enjoy doing what I do work wise. It is very rewarding in its own right. But it's I don't really see myself doing that long term. But for now, it's fine. You know, I get along with everybody. I have my own little set of jobs and stuff that I need to get done, so I just go and do it. And yeah, so I signed on for another year. Been dealing with immigration stuff as well, getting the new visa organized. Still have a couple more things I need to get from the city office to get everything submitted. But yeah, things are moving along pretty well. Mm, but I do want to kind of get things in motion for the next piece of business. It's one of the things I've really been thinking about for a while now. Just again, starting my own business out here. Um, yeah, that's the trick. It's not that. It's kind of weird. It's like I'm not worried if I fail. I'm worried if I succeed. It's just kind of bizarre to think about, right? Because like everybody's worried about failing, and I'm like, well, shit. If I fail, I'll just go back to doing what I was doing. Just working my regular job. Maybe do some other YouTube shit on the side or whatever. That's about it, basically. Um, but yeah, I'm still working out a lot of the details. But the basic gist of the business would be in video production and education mostly. So I want to do education courses, workshops on um, video production and photography as well. Because I noticed that there's not really a lot of places where you can learn that. I mean, yeah, technically you can learn online, obviously, but there's not really a lot of courses out there where you can talk with a teacher and get your questions answered in real time about those sorts of things. So I wanted to start something like that to actually teach people how to, you know, utilize their camera when working on an international set, you know. And it's funny because I've been watching a lot of videos. There's this one YouTube editor who I really respect, Hayden Hillier Smith. He used to edit for Logan Paul, did some work for Mr. Beast before it was not cool to work for Mr. Beast, um, and a bunch of other people. Those are the main two. But he said something in an interview that I think really struck a chord with me in particular, and that was as much as he was getting paid to edit for these like high profile YouTubers, he makes like way more now talking about editing versus actually sitting down and editing. And so I'm just thinking to myself, well, if he's saying that with the type of clientele that he's worked with, like, holy shit, what am I doing? And from my own experiences, I can definitely see that being the case, where um, he's basically just saying that you're limiting yourself to how many videos you can output, of course, but also the amount of money that people will pay per video as like a singular editor, has gone down tremendously, and it's very limited in that regard, you know. So it's like, do I keep pursuing that as a career path and try to get more and more gigs and better paying gigs, knowing that there's a ceiling for something like that, or do I share what I've learned, share my experiences, and there's loads more opportunities in that regard. And so I've definitely chose the latter, but that's not to say that I won't do the former either, because I do believe that there is value to be had in still keeping skin in the game, as it were, and still doing editing on a regular basis because you're constantly learning new things, and you can use that to share with your community out there. And I think that it's really important to be doing that. So that's something I want to do. I want to do, like I said, in addition to the education, I also want to actually offer video production photography services, um, and then do possibly like photo tours. That was another idea I was thinking about, but I think that'll be more of like a secondary type income because it's very dependent on the weather, and as you know, the weather in Japan, it's it kind of goes everywhere sometimes. Hold on. So that will be more of a secondary model of income, and then a couple other things too. Um, oh yeah, like ideally, I'd like to also get involved with like local tourism boards and showcase, especially the local Shonan area. I really want to highlight local businesses, festivals, events, just really get involved with the community in that way, and also be like a hub for other artists to gather, because I feel like there's a lot of collectives in Tokyo, a lot of networking events and stuff for artists to get together, but there's not really a lot in the Shonan area. And you might say, well, there's not a lot of artists and stuff in the Shonan area, but that's far from the truth. There's tons of creative people out here in Shonan. Like, I just go and look on Instagram and see all the amazing pictures and paintings and just a lot of stuff from artists right here in Shonan. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. They are shooting circles around me and a lot of other people I know up in Tokyo. Like, why aren't more people seeing these guys and gals? And I just want to be also just a conduit for creative networking as well. So that's another path I want to go down as well. But the main bread and butter of the business is going to be uh, video production and photography education, because I think that's going to be the main bit of it. with everything else just kind of, complementing that, and, just doing that. So yeah, Shonon's just amazing, you know, and just the people here are like really super nice in general. I mean, yeah, you got a couple shippers here and there, but for the most part, um, I just feel more like at home here in Shonan than I ever did in Tokyo or even Kawasaki. It's just a much more relaxed vibe here. I love it. So, but can you guys hold on just a sec? I have to go get my laundry. It's done, so I just gotta put it in the dryer real quick. So I'll be gone like maybe 3 minutes. Okay, so chote your mates. I will be right back. Actually, it's probably gonna be less than that, but I'll be right back. Hold on. Yoish. Oh man, there was something on my head. All right, let me get something to drink real quick before I hop back on. Hold on. Okay. All right. Yosh. Alrighty, so yeah, myself a nice little drink here. I'd love to show you, but YouTube gonna YouTube. So cheers. Mm, mm, it's a little flat. Well, yeah, cheers to you. Not Team Get Some. that's the other channel. But yeah, speaking of which, I've done some videos for Eric as well over the break. Did some shooting with him as well as editing. Lots of editing. So that's good. That's helped keep me afloat financially. So really thankful for that. Um, yeah, I don't think we had an official start to the stream, so I'll have to put the "All right, we're live, pal" section elsewhere, or maybe just get rid of that entirely. Whatever, regardless. But yeah, did I mention I got a new mic? It's not really new. It's the mic that I got for my camera. It's a Deity. I don't know the model name, but it's basically the version of the Rode Video Micro, the little bitty clip-on mic on top. That's basically their version of that. I found this a bit cheaper and it would ship faster on Amazon JP, so I got it. And I was just looking around today. I'm like, I'm curious. Do you think that would work as like a streaming mic? So this is kind of my little test run as far as that goes. I did recorded a couple clips to kind of get the settings right. And I think it certainly sounds a lot better than what I was working with the onboard mics for the Logitech, I think. And I just wanted to do a little stream just to test that out, basically, and just kind of talk about what's been going on. The connectivity. Oh no, it's hardwire, so it's a little 3.5 millimeter jack for the mic, and then webcam is USB. So yeah, but I'd love to get my old Shure mic back, which was USB connected. I think that had just the best audio quality, and it made streaming and recording tutorials and everything like such a breeze. Now that I found out that this thing actually works with my computer, because I've tried to work with different mic solutions before this, they didn't quite pan out, unfortunately, because I want to do tutorials again, but I couldn't get a good mic setup. The Shure mic, I had to sell it, unfortunately. Last year when before I started my new job and was getting paid from that job, I was really running low on savings, so I had to sell a lot of my stuff, unfortunately, until the checks started kicking in, which took a couple months, honestly. And I was already pretty giddy giddy as it was even before then. But yeah, unfortunately, I had to sell it to make ends meet. But now that they have a new version out, um, obviously I would love to get the new version. But if financially, if that's not possible, I'm more than happy getting the old version, which will be sold at a discount anyway. Because I think that was fine as it was. But the new version is pretty cool too. It has like different EQ settings, and I guess is overall improved as far as the quality of the mic. So yeah, never say never, but that's just kind of what I'm gearing towards. Uh, the Shure, the Shure MX7, I think is what it was. Let me check. I think it's the MX7 or MV7. Sorry, MV7X. Yeah. Now they got this one called the MV7 Plus, which is the new version. It's got like this little rainbow looking volume bar on the top. Wouldn't mind white either, but just for my setup, I think black would work better. Um, yeah, it's supposed to be similar to their popular SM7B microphone, which is like the podcast microphone, basically. So the MV7 is supposed to be like the USB connection version of the SM7B, which it is, but it also has an XLR output as well. So if I have a soundboard, I can just connect it that way, which is nice. But to me, the USB quality is pretty good too, unless I'm doing like studio work or something. I think it's fine. But yeah, MV7, what's called. Yeah, it's super cool, man. And I always got like the best audio from it. Like I love the videos where I'm recording with it, and the tutorials sound just amazing. I'm just like, damn, I need to get that mic again. you know, Unfortunately, I had to sell it, but definitely want to get that mic again for sure, for sure. But yeah, I think as far as finances go, I was in a bit of a tough spot these past couple weeks. Couldn't really enjoy the vacation much due to it. Um, I was planning on staying local anyway because it's my first summer living in Shonan versus visiting. But because of the terrible finances, unfortunately, I couldn't really enjoy the vacation as much as I'd like to. But hopefully that'll change in the future. It just kind of was what it was. I had some bills and stuff I had to pay for, and still have to pay for coming up here. So it's just gonna be pretty tight for a while, unfortunately. But again, that's one of the reasons why I want to start this business up is to hopefully generate, worst case scenario, at least generate some side income for myself. And best case scenario, have that be something that I can pivot to in the future. So yeah, I've been talking to my friends about it, so hopefully we can kick things off, um, and get things rocking and rolling. So yeah, but anyway, um, I guess we can start like the main part of the stream because I wanted to talk to you guys and just kind of do like a little, not a React Andy, that's a little too on the nose, but like a React, yeah, I guess just like a React Andy, basically, for some videos that I found by Unrested, old school OG J vlogger. Um, he recently popped up on my timeline with a couple videos, and I'm like, I haven't checked his stuff out in a while. So he had like some videos where he's talking about different J vloggers and things like that I thought were pretty interesting. So we could probably go over that, do a little reaction. If I have anything I'd like to add as far as my own experiences for them, then I can say it, I guess. um, But yeah, Scott and I didn't always see eye to eye back in the day. We had a bit of a falling out several years ago. I got kind of brought into this scandal. So, this is many years ago, but he kind of brought me into this bullshit scandal long time ago. Um, then turned out I had nothing to do with it. Big surprise. So he, took me off whatever list he had and apologized to me and stuff. And I wouldn't say we were like cool after that, but I rather just ignored him until fairly recently. And I don't hold any ill will towards him. It's been so many years. It's all water in the bridge at this point. So I found one of his videos on my home feed and decided to check it out. So I got a couple up in the queue that we can look over. So I figured we'd do that on stream here. If you guys, if you will, let's not the window capture, but the display capture. No, which one does it filter? Or not filter. How do you do this? Need to switch to the right window properties. Not that guy. Yeah, there we go. Now we got it. Yeah. Okay. So and I've been looking around and it looks pretty interesting. So I brought up like 5 or so of his videos. Figured we just have a little sit down, watch, react. This one is about Hannah Makes, Miss Hannah Makes. Yeah, that's a blast from the past, eh? So we got the video on deck. This one's the shortest of them all. So they're in order of shortest to longest. So this one's a little less than 16 minutes, and his longest one's nearly an hour. So for the sake of brevity, what I'll do is I'll have the video at 1.5x speed, so it'll be a little bit faster than normal, just so we can get through the videos a bit faster. And he talks kind of slow anyway, so it shouldn't be much of an issue, but apologies if it's hard for you guys to follow along. Shouldn't be, though, but we'll see. Anyway, let's get to this one. Miss Hannah Makes, another OG J-vlogger. Well, I always wondered what happened to her after a while. So anyway, let's begin.
Hey guys, what is up?
Actually, hold on. What am I doing? I almost forgot it. Let me check the audio levels here. Oh, actually, I think maybe it would be best if I had my headphones on so you guys could hear it a little better. Give me just a sec. Yeah. Just do it this way. Yeah. Rookie streamer, I know. Okay. Let's click on. Okay, cool. So that's good. Okay. All right. Desktop audio.
It back again, finally a bit more caught up on sleep here in Japan now that I've adjusted to the schedule again. You've been here about a week and a half now, and just kind of seeing.
Actually, tell you what. Why don't I want to see if he has captions, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If it's hard for you guys to follow, I'll just put the captions up there and make it a little easier. So anyway, here we go.
Hey guys, what is up? Unrested back again, finally a bit more caught up on sleep here in Japan now that I've adjusted to the schedule again. You've been here about a week and a half now, and just kind of seeing the sights and enjoying some of the old places I used to go through. But let's get off of that topic and on to today's topic of covering one of the J-vloggers who most mysteriously disappeared. And there's a lot that have disappeared in the past, just kind of like stopped making videos or slowly, I guess, took a step back from the internet. But this is one where I've seen requests across multiple communities asking what happened to the person. And I think this is because this video creator shot up in subs faster than anyone else I ever see or ever saw just come up and gain subs in the J-vlog community. I think if this person was still around today, they'd still be massive. And you know, as unfortunate as it is that people leave the community, I think it's understandable. I think
Yeah, I remember when she came up. She came up during the Reply Girl era, so I think that's how she was able to shoot up so quickly at the time, which was it was the meta at the time. So you'd basically get a hot girl in the thumbnail, and it would be like 10 seconds or so of just a little clip of usually nothing, but they would reply to a popular video, and because they'd use the hot girl in the thumbnail, a lot of people would click on it. And this was before audience retention became the measuring stick for YouTube videos getting recommended. Because before, if you had a bunch of views, then the algorithm would automatically recommend you and put you on the front page and stuff, and you just populate from there. But I think I do agree with Scott in here in that if she were still around, she'd definitely have at least a couple million subscribers, and I think she could have pivoted pretty nicely, to doing a lot of the stuff that you see these days with J bloggers, doing like the come shop with me or outfit of the day type stuff. Basically, she would probably just be doing what like Charla's doing, essentially. Um, Maybe have it be a little more anime focused because I know she was a big anime fan back in the day. So we might, get her going to like Comiket or Anime Expo or something like that. But I think she definitely could have continued on as a career for this. But anyway, let's continue.
people have a YouTube life and then they have
I joined the Navy. Maybe she was getting there when I joined the Navy, but no, she started way early in 2013, dude.
a various variety show of multiple different vlogs while she was here in Japan. I believe she was here as a student when she first came here, and she was learning through the cultural and traditional visa that she was on, and that usually covers like cultural classes like that. I think you don't get as much of an education in learning.
Yeah, from my understanding, I believe she was in a language school. That's how she was able to come to Japan. I don't know about cultural, maybe, but my understanding she was in well, I guess language would be cultural. Duh. So yeah, maybe he's right about that one. But yeah, my understanding was she was in a language school at the time. She did like a little. God, this is like really taking me back. I remember like the old Hannah Minx theme song. It's like seared in my brain all these years, and I wish the the musician who made that video, he's still on YouTube. He took a hiatus for years and years, but he's recently come back as a streamer. I don't know if he streams on YouTube necessarily, but I've seen his stuff on YouTube, maybe VODs and stuff. Good old guy named Lensei, and I guess he quit when he got hired at Sony, and I guess he's back now. I don't know if Sony gave him the go ahead or if he's just said fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. But he's back on the YouTubes now, which is great to see. But God, I remember that theme song. Before we continue on, I know we're like 2 minutes into this 15-minute video. Sorry, guys. Get a little reaction Andrew going on over here. We gotta do. Yeah, this is my my recommended list. So, yes, look and despair. Look and despair. You got all this too. So, yeah, I like listening to a lot of tunes. Anyway, Miss Hannah Minx makeup? No, not makeup. Theme. Wonder, are her old stuff up? It was by Betamax? What? No way. That can't be right. Betamax made? I thought Lindsay made
Had this
that.
song stuck in my head all day. Give me a break, man.
Oh, no. That's. Oh, yeah, Give Me a Break Man had that. This is an old ass video, though. Oh, lordy. Miss Minx Raw. What is this?
今日の歌詞はコアラマッチです。ドーン。
I guess it's. Where's that theme song? So, yeah. Which one was it? This one, mate? No. fucking. Wait, what? Wait, what? 11 years ago. This
With
is fairly
this
recent.
really beautiful, like Zen aesthetic. I've always loved Japanese language and anime.
Jesus. God, that editing hurts me. Jesus, these comments. 569,000 subscribers. My God. She has like fucking nothing on here though. Yeah, she took down like all her shit. Jinx and Jinx. I guess these are all the dance on stuff. That's like the only thing left of her now. Oh, come on. You gotta have the theme. Maybe it's maybe it's this one. Yes. Yes. These comments. Oh my God. You think this download? Nothing? I guess it's not working. Oh well. Wait, which ear is it? There we go. That's better. So you guys can at least see me with one ear and so I can hear myself. Sorry, I needed a little nostalgic-gasm with this. Nostalgic-gasm. Sorry. Anyway, back to
the Japanese language, but you start to learn a little bit about the history and stuff like that. And while she was here doing that, she made videos such as Learning Japanese with Hana Minx, and I'd say overall those videos very, very well watched, very high view rate and subscriber count because
she did a
let's be
lot
honest,
of
she was
those
a pretty girl
videos
on
back in the
YouTube.
day.
That's how she started, and she had a really great personality for starting her channel. She was one of these people that as soon as they got on camera, she had a real sense of her own personality and presented clearly and with a lot of upbeat attitude. She also had the goth look, which was
yeah, and that's another thing too. You know, it's just she was good looking, obviously, and she had that goth aesthetic. She always kind of reminded me of like a more modernized take on like Elvira or something like that, a little bit. But she was in like anime and stuff. But yeah, in addition to her being good looking and stuff, I do recall her being pretty hardworking as far as like the types of videos she was putting out, as far as like Japanese learning stuff, and she did a couple vlogs and stuff that those are the ones I watched mostly were the vlogs. Again, you know, I was such a sucker for like anybody living in Japan type content back in the day, and back then like hardly anybody was doing it, which is hard to believe saying that now because like everybody and their brother is recording their life in Japan experiences, and it's not hard to find that content these days, but back then it was kind of hard, you know, like especially having the high quality stuff, and you know, again, the educational component as well was very important.
for that time on YouTube, not as common. You know, now there's every type of variety of genre you could possibly imagine. But
just like I said,
I believe she was one of the very first pretty goth girls that was on YouTube making videos, and her unique niche was doing Japanese stuff because she was here in Japan, and she was teaching the language. Although I remember some of her videos, the pronunciation she would teach was pretty off kilter. I would say my Japanese is pretty bad. I speak like a kindergartner for the most part, but for her it was like she would teach one word at a time. And I remember one of the lessons was how to say I in Japanese, which is just me. And she would overly pronounce like the H sound and be like meh or something like that. I was just like, oh, where is she getting like this weird H sound from in this word meh just for eyes? But I mean, at the same time, her channel wasn't trying to get some kind of clout as like the premier Japanese learning channel. She wasn't the Ken Cannon of teaching Japanese, and we'll cover Ken Cannon in another video, another long.
Ken Cannon. Anyway, but yeah, that was another thing. It's just oh, I lost my train of thought.
Forgotten J-Vlog.
He said something.
Her channel wasn't trying to get some kind of clout as like the premier.
Oh, that's what it was. Sorry, I had to like rewind a little bit. It's like, what was he saying again? Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that was just kind of how it was back in the day. Like nobody was really trying to get famous or anything. And if anything, if anybody was trying to get famous, they were doing it to like get the attention of more traditional media and try to get on TV or get signed to a record deal or something like that. Let me tilt this guy up a little bit. And that was kind of the play. It wasn't doing YouTube to be successful on YouTube. It was doing YouTube to be successful elsewhere and use that as a launching pad for those who wanted to be. Others, they just did YouTube just to do it. They didn't really have a goal in mind. And it's hard to say if she had that goal in mind because, like I've showed you earlier, inadvertently, she did manage to get on TV for a couple appearances. So maybe that was her goal. Maybe it wasn't. Hard to say. But, just judging strictly from her videos, I didn't really get that vibe of her wanting to only do YouTube just to get famous on TV and stuff. Like she seemed genuinely cared about what she was doing as far as her videos and stuff go. Even if she wasn't the best at the Japanese.
Channel. She wasn't the Ken Cannon of teaching Japanese, and we'll cover Ken Cannon in another video, another long forgotten
she did her best
who taught Japanese on YouTube. I think she was just there more so to be a personality, and that's what she did, and she did it great.
Yeah.
I think she reached around 500,000 subscribers back when all of us were like nobodies, when we were like 10,000 subscriber channels. She was up there almost about to get one of the first sets of million subscribers on YouTube. She was blowing up.
Yeah, she was one of the first to like get really super high up there in subs. Yo, Jason, what's going on, man? Just doing a little React Andy going on over here.
She was huge. She was going steady from 2013 to 2014, covering these vlogs that would cover a little bit of everything from Japan.
13 to 14, no, that timeline doesn't sound right because that was the time I was here, and she had long since retired from YouTube by the time I got out here. So yeah, those dates don't line up.
Her going around to like matsuris, eating the food around Japan, talking about different cultural and traditional things, teaching a little bit of the language, and then suddenly in 2015, nothing. She stops making videos. She stops responding to everybody. She stops putting out any kind of content. She doesn't update her Facebook, MySpace. MySpace was still a thing back then. And any other social media she had, Twitter, everything. Her Twitter profile locked down into private. And there was a lot of what happened. For a while, the conspiracy theories came out. And I remember seeing one over and over again about how she had died in a car crash. And no matter who said this, whenever I would look for a source on where they found this, it led to nothing. I would go through like old internet archives. There was other things about her being kidnapped and stuff like that. I looked for anything on that.
Yeah, but I mean, those theories, like, if something did happen to her in that regard, like, why would they take the time to, like, wipe all her stuff on social media? Like, that doesn't really make sense. Oh, yeah, it is round. Is it? Oh, yeah, it is round one, isn't it? Yeah, it's just some background footage he has going right now. Yeah.
No such thing.
Yeah, again, the dates, 2015 or 2013 to 2015, that's not correct. She had long retired from YouTube before then. I'd say probably 2010, 2011, I think is when she stopped. Yeah, because she was gone like way before I got to Japan. So, yeah, those dates don't line up.
And I remember thinking this was like a huge mystery back then. But at the same time, part of me felt like, I'll bet you it's sort of an Occam's razor situation where, the simplest answer is usually the best answer for these kind of situations. But what was surprising to see is there was even other YouTubers out there outside of the J-Vlogger sphere putting out any kind of call to arms to find Hana Minks. There was even, if you can believe it, Oni-san, if you don't remember Oni-san, or if he is before your time, he was a huge creep, still a huge creep on YouTube. according to him and Hana Minx would call each other at least once a week, and then suddenly she stopped calling him. My guess is once she figured out his true personality, that's the main reason she stopped talking to Oni-san. I think anybody who figured out who that guy is really in real life would stop talking to him right away. So I don't want
Yeah, and that's kind of the unfortunate situation with a lot of those types of people, is that you don't really see their true intentions until much later, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, well, I don't want to bury the lead here, so I'll let Scott continue, and then I'll get my thoughts.
to associate anything with Oni-san and Hana Minx. I don't think she has any kind of connection to him anymore, and I think their time talking on YouTube was very brief, but he was one of the first people to put out a call to arms to try and find Hana Minx. And then I started to see it even on like some of the horror channels I used to watch, which would be like 5 missing YouTubers who were never found again. And she'd be included in things like Kenny Veach. And if you don't know about Kenny Veach, he was a YouTuber who would go out exploring like really vast amounts of desert and caves that would go on for miles and miles. And one day he just disappeared into a cave called the M Cave. And she would be on these like searches for these missing YouTubers that were actually like for real missing, like as in there was like missing case files out on them. And again, from my research, there was never anything out there about a police report or anything that she was missing.
I mean, for me, even though I didn't know the exact reason why she left until later, I always kind of figured, it was a very common occurrence back in the early days of the JVlog community for people to, start up a channel and then stop, either because, they just didn't like doing YouTube that often, they thought it was too hard, or they got busy doing something else, or, a lot of people who started channels were students. So when their exchange time was done and they would have to go back to their home country, they wouldn't keep doing YouTube because they figured, well, the main hook of me and my channel is my time in Japan. So like, who's gonna want to see my goofy ass back in my home country, And there's some validity to that, but back then it was kind of an all or nothing sort of situation. It wasn't like it is now where you can pivot to more of a personality based channel instead of just only talking about where you're geographically located, But that was kind of the thoughts of that time frame. Like once you're out of the country, you just stop making videos entirely and just drop off. You don't do content pivots, you don't start a new channel, and that's why he stopped. Or I think in his case, technically he was starting a job, and one of the requirements was that he couldn't have any kind of social media presence. So I figured that might have been something similar to her, like her case. Like maybe she got a job and they didn't want her to stream anymore, or not stream, but make videos anymore, or something like that, or she just got too busy. That's kind of what I figured had happened. But let's have Scott wrap this up here.
So again, I didn't associate any crime, any kind of murder, any kind of kidnapping, or anything like that
Yeah, I didn't
with
either.
Hana Minx because she wasn't on any of these police profiles or anything like that. But I would see her pop up in these type of videos.
Well, that
like,
who would
5
like
missing
delete
YouTubers
all her
never seen
socials
again.
immediately?
It was just ridiculous to add her to things like that.
It seemed too intentional.
Like I said, most of us in the JVlogging community did just figure she decided to take a step back from it. One thing you do start to notice when you've done this for quite a while in Japan is that a lot of the students who do come over to Japan, they make their 1 or 2 videos and they get really excited about being in Japan, but once they finish schooling and they move on with a career in real life and stuff like that, they of course leave doing videos about Japan behind because it's like part of their life that's in the past. So of course they leave the channel in the past as well. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's really quite understandable.
I literally just said that. I swear I didn't watch this video beforehand.
These missing J-vloggers that I'll talk about in the future.
Yeah, that is
they came here, made some great videos as a student, but once they moved on with real life, that was it. They're done. So there was actually somebody who did know what happened to her. Now, the only thing I can say is like I don't have paperwork or solid source proof that I can show on video proving to you that this is what really happened. But give me a break, man. Give me a flake, man. Victor did let me know one day. He said the answer is really simple. Hana Minx got married, and apparently, from what I understand, and I could have some of the information on this a little bit off, but the full context is she got married. She got married to someone in Hollywood who was a director, and they pretty much wanted to make their life private after that because, as you can probably imagine, anybody and everybody in Hollywood is constantly followed around by paparazzi if they even get slightly popular.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the situation, Hold on. Let me get another drink here. Didn't realize how low I was on all the Sprite. Right, chat? Just nice, crisp Sprite. Two lamps, yo, welcome. That face on the channel again. I know, right? Yeah, he recently popped up in my recommended, so I figure I give some of his videos a little watch, and yeah, here we are. So just pouring a nice can of cold Sprite into my yellow glass. Nothing more. Nothing more. It's very lemony flavored. I know, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But yeah. So cheers to y'all. Bink. Mm. Should be peach, I know. They had a excuse me. They had a peach flavor that was out a while ago. That was pretty good. Yeah, buddy, not stirring. Yeah, I got a little lazy with that. I probably could have. Hate watching is pure girl reacting. No, I'm not hate watching. Yeah, cheers, Berbedo. I'm just, curious to see what's going on. Doing a little react Andy. No hate watching. So
their life becomes so public that it's to a point of obsession and being annoying. And
Yeah.
I think nobody would blame anyone who wanted to private all their social media to escape that wild circus of paparazzi. And that's pretty much what happened with Hannah Minks. Once she married a director who was doing quite well in Hollywood, her life was pretty complete. Did she do anything else with her career as far as YouTube was concerned? Not that any of us know of. She has never come back onto YouTube. The most recent thing anybody ever saw from her was an update on her Facebook profile, which I have a feeling might have just been hacked or taken over. And it said, Hannah Minks is a cartoon character who escaped an anime so that she could write her own life story. It said something goofy like that, which I don't know why suddenly in 2021 she decided to update it with that. But another weird thing that did happen was every single video she had on her channel was deleted in about 2019, 2020, and any other trace of her being on YouTube was mostly erased as far as any account that she controlled. Of course, there's still collab videos and stuff like that out there of her.
Yeah, there's collabs, there's re-uploads, compilations like we saw earlier. That's all that's up. Aside from her appearance on this TV show. Let me see. Oh yeah, Akita Tom. Damn, that's a blast from the past. I was hoping someone would correct them on the dates because those are hella wrong. But everything else is pretty on the spot. Anyway, let's continue.
And they still exist to this day. You can type in the name Hannah Minks and she comes up right away. But for the most part, she has mostly been deleted from the internet. The last thing that was heard about her was that she had a baby and is now a happy mom, still married, and probably still living a great life. Maybe somewhere out in Hollywood. Maybe they've moved, who knows. But she's probably doing quite well for herself. And that was the end of her story. There's no crazy disappearance, no crazy kidnapping, no murders, no car crashes. I'm happy to report that her YouTube career ended with her simply starting IRL life. You know what I mean? And again, like this is something you should expect from a lot of the people who start channels, especially when they're just young students. You have a lot of time when you're a student in college. You have a lot that you want to share with the world. You're still experimenting with what your personality is. You're putting a lot out there as far as what you want to show off from Japan while you're here for a short time. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think she really had a talent for what she did on YouTube and really came across as one of the first great personalities in the J-vlogging community. And it's great that our whole community is associated with her. I'm still glad to this day that she was part of that community. It's one of the brighter spots in the history of J-vlogging. other than that, there hasn't been much heard from her ever since. And again, my only source that she got married was Give Me a Break Man, Give Me a Flake Man, telling me about that. I have heard from a couple other creators, and if you go and check videos about her online now, most have been updated to say, yes, she actually was married and, took most of herself offline after, wanting to make her life more private and stuff like that. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I can totally understand why people do stuff like that. If she was still around today, would she be, I think she'd be massive. I think her channel would be
Oh God, yeah.
blowing up. I think she'd still be massively popular. She really came to YouTube with the right personality, the right spirit, and the way to present stuff properly, and brought nothing but good vibes. So I still think she'd be flourishing today. But again, I totally understand why she wouldn't want to continue to do YouTube while also raising a family. It makes sense. If you have any other questions about other YouTubers or anything for the future,
There's a little call to action time. But yeah, it's just one of the things, and I think he didn't. I don't think he explains it on here, but there was another. She was a really good friend of mine, Grace from the Texan in Tokyo channel. I remember finding out about her through a friend of mine when she was still drawing her comic books, little webtoons and stuff, and that was getting massive traction. And I remember meeting her at a YouTuber get together. This was back in 2014, so it was before she started her YouTube channel. And I remember talking to her, like, "Oh my God, I remember you. My friend recommended me your comic book, and I looked at them all the time. It's awesome." And like nobody knew who she was at the time, but she's like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about starting up a YouTube channel." I'm like, "Do it! Like, oh my God, that would be amazing." And to me at the time, I was thinking it would be more like an animatic type thing, like she would like not animate her comics, but have like storyboard type animations, for her stuff. So that's kind of what I was thinking, but also like some day in the life stuff I think would be fun. But I was like super encouraging, like, yeah, absolutely do it. Like, my gosh, that'd be amazing. And she eventually did, and it was a little bit of a slow start at first, but once she got going, man, it's just like her and her husband Ryosuke, like, man, those guys, really good people, and I'm so glad to, been their friend during my first run here in Japan. You know, um, got to really know them as people and not just, oh, this big famous YouTuber. It's like they're real people and stuff. But yeah, they decided to pull away their online presence, much like Hannah did when they decided to start a family. But unlike Hannah, they made a video, two videos technically, kind of talking about their reasons for doing so, and letting everybody know, yeah, we're gonna be starting a family, so we don't feel comfortable having the kid on camera, so we're just gonna dip out. So bye, you know. And oh God, that was a rough day. So I sometimes go back and just kind of look at the old vlogs and stuff, and just get reminded of my time. You know, such is life. You know. But anyway, let's move on to the next vid here on the list. You get to see some of my other stuff down here for later consumption. But anyway, we got the J Vlogger who hated Japan. That's next on the docket.
hey guys, what's up? Unrested.
Oop, forgot to turn on the captions here. So for those of you just tuning in, we're doing a little React Andy to some of Unrested's recent videos. I know he's not somebody you guys expected to see on this channel, myself included. But yeah, he just recently popped up on my recommended list on my homepage. And, Scott, Unrested, and I had a bit of a falling out several years ago through a bit of a misunderstanding. Just getting roped in some controversy. Not going to give the full details, but yeah, he just kind of roped me into some controversy, and then found out I had nothing to do with it, and he pulled my name out, but I was still getting harassed for months about it. So I didn't really feel all too kindly with Mr. Ackerman over here for a number of years. I didn't hate him, but I just was like avoiding him for a while. But as I say, time heals all wounds, and we're sitting here just kind of watching his stuff, just kind of seeing what he's got going on these days. So we just recently watched the Hannah Makes vid, and now, excuse me, all the burping. We're gonna watch the J Vlogger who hated Japan video. 3 guesses as to who this is about.
Back for one more video before I head out. I'm literally about to drive to the hotel that I'm going to be staying at before I launch off to the airport and head to Japan. We're doing...
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you guys can hear it fine, right? I had the desktop audio kind of low when I bumped that up here. I had it low for the background music. Yeah, we'll bump that up to like -6, -7. We'll go -7. And oh, by the way, I have the captions on because I would like to watch these at 1.5x speed. So if it sounds a little faster than normal, it is. It's just for brevity's sake, just kind of get through the videos a little bit faster. And he does talk kind of slow anyway, so it shouldn't be much of an issue. But anywho, let's continue.
One more J-Vlogger today. We've been doing a lot of this nostalgia on J-Vloggers, and today our J-Vlogger is Ryan Boundless. People have requested this one, so Ryan, please know there's still people out there who miss you, who love you.
Yeah, there's people. I'm not one of those people, but there are people.
You are missed in the J-Vlog community.
You're like Mr.
Ryan
Boundless,
the YouTuber who didn't want to be in Japan.
Yeah, this guy. I never personally had any major encounters or interactions with old Mr. Boundless, but yeah, his content has just been so pervasive, even long after he's quit YouTube or just moved on to like different genres in YouTube. You know, it's been like a rallying cry for a lot of let's say unsavory communities here on YouTube. So I always kind of saw him as not really like a leader of that, but just like he was like the author of some manifesto that got picked up by a lot of people and taken the wrong way. But basically, for the uninitiated, I'll give a very brief description. So Ryan Boundless was a J-Vlogger who basically talked about the realities, quote unquote, of living in Japan. Dream Crusher series is what he called it. And he would just kind of talk about kind of the more negative aspects of living in Japan. And not saying that what he talked about wasn't, you know, untrue, but it did kind of paint, you know, living in Japan in a very bad light. And so a lot of people think that it's all that, which it's not. That's just one part of it. And a part that not a lot of people like to talk about, fortunately. But, you know, a lot of people just kind of took the bad without taking the good and just ran with it as some kind of, again, like some manifesto of living in Japan. So, yeah, it's just, he's become like a cult icon, I guess you could say, back in the U.S. Oh, he is back in the U.S. now. Yeah, last I heard he was living in Africa with somebody. Interesting. Well, there you go. So anyway, let's hear the story of old Mr. Boundless.
How did I first hear about Ryan Boundless? For me, I first heard about him because people started asking me questions about things Ryan was talking about. Are portions in Japan way too small? Are the police like or disapprove or don't feel Ryan Boundless is justified in his videos? And to that I say no, not at all. I think Ryan came from a very different situation in Japan where things were kind of grim for him. You've got to understand that when he came here, it all began with him being in a relationship, and I don't know how deep I want to get into it because this is really his business, but he was pretty much married, and he was in a relationship, he got married, and then one day that girl divorced him while he was in Japan. He was more than willing to make everything work, but this girl just wouldn't have it. She left him for another man, and from that day on, he wasn't really living the dream in Japan anymore. He was living a pretty dark period of his life, and I think that really was reflected in his videos. I have to say he was very brave at the time because he did a whole series covering like his depression and his battle with mental illness and stuff that he was going through post-divorce, which I don't think a lot of people, especially the time where he was making stuff like that, I don't think a lot of people were brave enough to go through stuff like that. A lot of guys will talk about like, I didn't need her anyway and I'm better off now, I'm a man's man and I'll be fine. And, like, he was just exposing his soul and saying he was very deeply hurt and, you know, he couldn't believe things had worked out this way. And I had...
Yeah, I guess truth be told, I haven't really followed too much of old Mr. Boundless's exploits, rather just random shit his acolytes would spew in comments and stuff. But yeah, it kind of makes sense hearing what happened to him and the kind of rhetoric he was talking about at the time. Makes a lot of sense. But I guess he's back in old Mercagen land now, according to what common commentator is saying. So yeah, hopefully he's feeling a lot better now and is dealing with stuff better now. We'll see. Who knows?
A lot of respect for that. I thought, like, this is like super brave. I don't know if I would come on here and talk about, if my marriage had failed or something like that. I don't know if I would be brave enough to do that. I think I might hide away from the internet. But here's Ryan spilling his guts on the internet back before anybody talked about mental health, back before there was TikTok, back before there was a thumbs up or thumbs down on our videos. Ryan's out here spilling his.
Oh yeah, this was back in the star rating days, wasn't it? Yeah, he was pretty new. Didn't know he was actually married. Yeah, I figured he was married. I didn't know that he got divorced and that kind of spurned this whole thing to begin with. It was the cause of all this. That I didn't know, but yeah.
Guts and talking the truth of what it's like to go through a divorce in Japan. Nobody had a video up like that. But this also did kind of flavor his videos for the rest of the time he was here. He was very blunt and very crass with how he focused on the negative aspects of Japan. And people gave him a lot of shit. People gave him a lot of, trash talk and stuff like that. A lot of other J-vloggers would talk down about him. I made a few videos myself where I kind of joked about at times he was exaggerating, but there was truth. And I think that's the most important thing that I feel like everybody should take that away from his videos. Although they were negative, although they were bummers, although he did have a series called Dream Crusher, pretty much everything Ryan said was truth. He was talking about the worst parts of Japan.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with Scott on this. Like, there is truth in what he said about certain aspects of Japan, but again, it's with life, it's about taking the good with the bad. And in Ryan's case, he was just taking the bad. So he was just focused on all the negative aspects of living in Japan and all these negative experiences, and he was highlighting them over any semblance of positive experience that he might have, and that's just no way to go through life, but his series, his Dream Crusher series, really laid in stark contrast to the majority of the Japan content, which was very positive about Japan. Like, oh, Japan's amazing, and you get to live in this little place for like next to nothing, and get to work here and experience all this technology and all this, that, and the other, and you don't have to worry about getting jumped or shot or whatever. But there's negative aspects to that too, and that's what Ryan's videos focused on, which, I think if you only watched the negative aspects, you'd think, oh, geez, Japan's a hellhole to live in. Why would anybody want to live there? But I think if you approach it with the perspective of, okay, here are some negative things that could happen to you. This, life in Japan isn't all this. It's not all bad. But here are some things that are kind of crummy about it that might apply to you, might not, or you may slightly encounter. Again, everybody's situation's different, so it's hard to say entirely. But anyway.
And the worst aspects of the social constructs of Japan as well. And like that's every country. Every country has a trash aspect to it, a part that just sucks. That you wish you could
Maybe I just misunderstood. Yeah. Maybe he misspoke, because I think he's still in Japan. Regardless. Then again, the rooms look a lot different. The knobs look different, so... Does anybody know if Scott's still in... Is he still in Japan, or is he in America? I'm a little confused. Like I said, I haven't kept up on Unrested in a while, so... I thought for sure he was, Yeah, this room doesn't look well, and little here. Oh Jesus, that's a fucking base take. No, maybe he's still in Japan. Rooms look different though. Yeah, this does not look like Japan at all. Anyway, we'll watch that video next. He is in Japan? Okay. Must be in like the Inaka, because like that space doesn't really look very Japanesey. But regardless.
Aspects of it. Let's go through some of the videos so you can get kind of a sense. If you weren't around during this time watching his videos, I'm going to give you some. These aren't the exact titles, but these are kind of the themes, and I'm going to kind of give my own sort of.
I'm just now catching up to the lore.
I guess 1-2 punch as far as how I agree with these negative aspects of Japan. Number one, don't come to Japan to teach. That was one of his main ones, and he did a lot of videos on just don't waste your time coming here to teach. And I gotta agree, especially right now when the pay is so trash. The pay for teaching in Japan right now is like only a couple dollars ahead of working at a konbini. Not to trash konbini workers, but that's mostly a job that's done right out of high school. If you're working like for high school pay after you finish college, because you have to have a degree to work as a teacher in Japan, that's bullshit. Like, don't work for that money. Don't try to survive on the tiny pittance that they'll give you at these garbage, eikaiwas and stuff like that. I gotta agree with him especially.
Yeah, it's like. Well, I guess like my take on the whole like don't come to Japan to teach is it just depends on like what your ultimate goal with Japan is. Like if it is just to teach because you love teaching and stuff like that, there's more profitable countries to do that in, even outside of America. If that's your goal. But, if you're just coming to Japan just to have an experience, if you're here for like a year or two and that's it, you're done, go back to your home country or somewhere else. And I think that's valid too. I think people need experience abroad to broaden their perspectives on life. Looks good on a resume too. But like if you're in it for the long haul, then I would treat teaching as more of a gateway, just a way to get your foot in the door, and use this time to build your network, build your skills, and move on to something else. Because teaching by itself long term isn't really, a financially viable career unless you move up to different institutions. Now, if you're teaching at university, obviously that's way fucking different than running like an eikaiwa or something like that, or working in an eikaiwa, I should say. That's way different. Or even running your own school like Scott does, apparently still. He's been doing it for years and years. I remember way back in the day he still had his old school. A lot of J vloggers have that. Scott, Victor, Tino, they have their own schools. So that's a pretty viable business as well, just running your own school check. So it's not bad. It's just if you're looking to make a career out of just that, then you might want to rethink where you're teaching. So anyway, let's roll on.
Now in these days where Japanese yen is worthless. Like, I mean, it's almost half the amount of an American dollar right now. It's not really worth it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's gotten better.
And I even had a series recently. I had a video recently where it was like, should I move to Japan? And I said to a lot of people, no, not right now, unless you have another plan other than teaching. Everything is too expensive. I think that is the only one I'd probably say now. That's not as true. Actually, Japan is cheaper than America.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, in terms, I guess things being expensive depends on your perspective on things. Like, if you're earning yen, then yes, things are more expensive because the purchasing power of yen has gone down. But if you're earning in another currency like USD, then your purchasing power has gone up significantly. So as someone from the outside coming in, it's stupid cheap to come to Japan right now, and that's why you see this huge influx of tourism because it's so cheap for other currencies to come in here and spend their money. Whereas locally, maybe not so much. You know, so it's not necessarily that things are more expensive because inflation hasn't really been much of a thing in Japan. Things have only gone up in price slightly for the most part, but the purchasing power of yen has definitely gone down. It's gone up a little bit recently, but still, it's a far ways away from what it was, we'll say.
When we first moved there, though, around the times that Ryan and I were there, things were more expensive. Back in 2007, you're paying $30 for a watermelon. You find grapes that are worth $100, and you're like, what?
Well,
Why
if
would
you're
I pay
buying
that?
fruit,
Going out
fruit's
to eat was pretty
expensive.
expensive. You're looking at like $30 back in 2007. But see, the thing is, all those prices never changed. Like now, today, you can go to a pretty nice place to eat, and it's only $30, which that sounds like crazy cheap now, right? Like, because I can go to McDonald's in America and buy food for 4 people, and it's like $45, and that's the value meals too. So in Japan, you can still go to a pretty decent place to eat for like 2 to 3 people and pay $30. Not the same in America. More expensive. Groceries more cheap in Japan now. A lot of stuff's way more cheap, and it's because salaries haven't gone up in a long time in Japan, and so they haven't been able to really raise the prices of stuff. Actually, rent too has not really gone up that much, and it's a lot cheaper. You can still probably rent a pretty decent place for $700 to $800 in Japan. It's gonna be small, but I mean, it's a place.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like I said, the inflation in Japan has been pretty minimal for the most part. It's just the purchasing power of the yen has gone down, so it's harder to buy stuff outside of the country, and because salaries haven't really gone up, your ability to purchase things has gone down tremendously because you're still getting paid 2007 wages or 2004 wages in a 2024 world, basically. So
What else does he have here? Food is too small. Yeah, food. I mean, the portions are much smaller. I don't know. Like, you get used to it though after you've lived there a while.
yeah, like the food portions thing, I actually preferred it, which you might think, looking at the size of me, like, oh Jesus, like he's probably getting like 5 meals a day or something like that. It's like not really the case, but yeah, I actually preferred the smaller meal sizes just because it's you still get your fill, but it's not like overwhelmingly so. Um, but yeah, on days where I'm like really hungry, it sucks. I have to end up getting some extra shit just to feel full. But for the most part, I'm pretty fine with whatever their sets are and just carry on from there. But yeah, and again, it allows you to try a variety of different things rather than just, okay, I'm going to get one thing, one meal, one set, and just ride that out. You can get like a set, and then maybe get like a side item or whatever. Go from there.
But there's sometimes, like, especially when you order a dessert in Japan, you're like, are you kidding me? Like, this is like half a scoop of ice cream. What the hell is this? There's a couple times. The worst I'd have to say is if you go to eat a steak at a nice steak restaurant, they'll sit there and like spend all this time like cutting it and grilling it for you and giving it to you like piece by piece, and you just always feel hungry. Like you're like, that wasn't like a full steak. Like that felt like 8 cubes of steak. Like, where the hell is my goddamn steak? Sorry, I'm being a bit rough with the language here. I got to be careful. I don't want to go too nuts on the language. These are some things that definitely make you curse. Okay, the food is too small. I mean, the fast food's always the same size. Although when you get to the drinks are a lot smaller, and you always have to pay to refill your drink in Japan. So,
Yeah, that's another thing. You don't get free refills in Japan. Although some places you do, like they have gas for me because I like drinking a lot. As you can see, Sprite. um, but it is what it is. And also the drink sizes and the food, in addition to the food sizes being small, the drink sizes are smaller too, even at the fast food restaurants because it's basically a size down from what you're thinking. So like, from comparing Japan to American sizes, the cups and everything are the exact same, but they're a size down. So what would normally be, except for the fries, oddly enough, like the fries are the exact same size as in America. You got your small, medium, large. Uh, I think I've seen super size like once here as like a promotional thing. but that's not very common. It's usually small, medium, large. But for the drinks are sized down. So what is considered a medium here would be considered a small in America. What's considered a large here would be a medium in America, just to give you an idea. And they don't have an American large here, except on like special promotional days they have it. Their version of supersize is a large. So, yeah, it's a bit of a shock, but it is what it is. Again, you manage through it. So
Yeah, I guess, there are smaller portions. I would still agree with that completely. I mean, the portions are much smaller, but I mean, some of us Americans, I think we need some smaller portions, if you know what I mean. Japanese oyaji will always be an asshole. Sorry, that's the way it's written. An oyaji is like an old man or an old person, and they will always be racist to you. The most racism I have dealt with is mostly with older Japanese people. I think mostly just because they haven't had any kind of knowledge of the outside world. Like, they're very indigenous and never traveled outside of Japan, so they ask some questions that you're
yeah, I mean, I guess from my own experiences, I've experienced both sides of the coin as far as old people in Japan. Not just old men, but just old people in general in Japan. Like I've experienced, that crusty oyaji, just yelling and being a total racist fuck. But I've also experienced a lot of people who, especially the older folks, because they were around during the Showa era, back when spending was good, so they were able to afford to travel outside of Japan and stuff like that. They're very, very open minded, and they think a lot more Western style, and it's just like it's very nice to meet those types of people. It's like, oh, nice, you know. So again, it's very much a your mileage may vary sort of situation. But yeah, I've seen both sides of the gamut with things. So
like, oh, dude, yeah, please don't ask that. Like, don't ask to touch my black friend's hair, okay? Don't ask me if my nose and my eyes, are real nose. Like, that's not really a cool question to ask, bro. Come on, stop. Um, you know,
I've had that happen. Well, not the nose or the hair. I've had the eyes happen before. Like some girl asked me to pull my glasses up so they could see my eyes, and they just start giggling and freaking out. And so I just do it, just go to them on, just just to mess with them. Um, because I have blue eyes. For those who don't know. So I guess to them it seems kind of weird, but whatever. I don't care.
are you gangster? Are you Yakuza? It's like, you know Yakuza better than me. You live in your country. Why would I know more about the Yakuza? Because of tattoos. All kinds of silly stuff. You'll get asked. Probably the rudest thing I ever got is I did have an old person one time on a bike going as fast as they could past me because I think they were scared, but they told me kaede, go home to your country. And they like shoot me, like, get out of my country. Like, that was probably the rudest, most racist thing I ever had happen.
Oh yeah, I had that same experience when I was stationed in Yokosuka. Actually, um, I was walking home, and I didn't really think about it at the time. So I just had like my headphones in. I was just kind of spacing out, and I hear like some old dude kind of coming up the way. He's like, "Kairo, kairo," basically go home. And I told him in English because I wasn't thinking. I was like, "I am going home." And he's asking me like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Home." He's like, "Yeah, go home." I'm like, "I am going home." And I didn't really think about it until I actually got home and was like, "Oh, he meant back to America." Because I don't know. Sometimes me brain not so good, but I just thought it was kind of funny. But yeah, that kind of stuff happened in Yokosuka, especially because of the military presence. So it crazy Oyashi yelling at you to go home when you're on your way home, you know. But there would also be a lot of protests for the carrier because it's nuclear powered. So there'd be I remember seeing this guy staging a protest in front of the train station. There was like a little like little open area, and he had this huge sign of like it was like a drawing of the carrier with a bunch of ships and stuff, and it had like the nuclear symbol on it and just like an X and like no, it's like we don't want this. and he just spout a bunch of rhetoric and shit like that. And I'm just like, I wasn't even on the carrier. I was on a destroyer, which is not nuclear powered. So I'm just like, I don't give a shit. I just kind of walk past. It's like, what's that? So, but yeah, that's probably like the closest like actual racist experiences I've had. I mean, there's been some other encounters, like especially on the beaches. Um, you get some fun police is what I call them, but you get like some local. I don't know if they're volunteers, if they actually work for the government. It's hard to say, but they basically like patrol the beach, make sure everybody's following the rules, and it depends on the beach. Like some beaches are a lot more chill about it. Like Yugihama in Kamakura back in the day used to have a I mean they'd still have the group, but they used to just like show up to your tent and just say, "Hey, here are the rules. Let's, not get too rowdy or whatever." They just peace out, you know. So, and that was about it. But this year they've been especially aggressive, and it's been hard for me to go out to a lot of events out in Yokohama, unfortunately, just because the patrol has been so aggressive. And even if we aren't doing anything, they always approach us because a bunch of loud gaijin. And even if we're not loud, we're just a bunch of gaijin. We ain't supposed to be there. We got tattoos, and we might play rock music and Kairo, kono yaro gaijin, shit like that. So it just devolves very quickly. But yeah, it can get pretty bad. And then Zushi, I've heard, was the worst of it. I just remember when I first moved to Japan back in 2013 to 2015, Zushi was especially strict. I have heard it has loosened up recently from some people, but considering what it was back in the day, I'm like very skeptical. But I mean, that's just what I've heard. But I haven't been back at the beach in nearly a decade at this point, so I'm just like, is it really worth it for me to go there and just get yelled at because I'm another filthy fucking gaijin mucking up the beach, But yeah, the whole Yugihama thing was something that hurt the most, though, just because that was like our beach. My friends and I would, especially my friends up in Tokyo, because that was the easiest beach for them to get to. Was well, aside from Enoshima, Kamakura would be the easiest to get to because it's just straight down. And yeah, it just pissed me off so much. That they would get so strict with the rules, and I'm just like, I'm just not having fun here. Like, for me, where I live in Shonan, I could just walk to a beach like 15 minutes. Like I'm here to hang out with you guys and have a good time. Like I'm not here to get fucking hassled, you know. So at least at my beach, they're pretty in the middle. Like sometimes they get a little strict, but for the most part, from my beach further on west, they get a lot less strict. Like if you go out to Oiso, you get the lifeguards kind of approach you. They'd say, "Hey, here are the rules. Just don't drink too much, don't get too rowdy, and let's have a good time." And they're like super chill about it. They're a bunch of daigakse, so college students, usually they're on like summer break just for just working a baito or a part-time job. And yeah, they're super fucking chill, just practicing their English. So especially in a town like Oiso where there's hardly any English speakers out that way, I'm sure they probably wanted to speak English with us more than actually hassle us about the rules. So they just kind of used that as a way to speak with us. So in that case, I was okay with it, because they were super chill about it. And Chikasaki's pretty chill about it too. But yeah, again, it's just very case by case. So you just got to know the places to go that are the most chill and just hang out there. So, yeah.
To me, obviously, not earth shattering, but he dealt with a couple times like that too. He said, like some of the questions he got and stuff were like very racist and stuff like that. And
the police, like if I notice there's like some shit going down or whatever, and police are starting to get involved, I'm like, I'm just gonna scoot away. I'm just not gonna be involved with any of this, and it served me well. I haven't had to deal with it, and obviously there's you know some aspects to that some people may call me out on, but I've personally never had to deal with police, but I've heard lots of horror stories, especially out in Zushi, which is one of the reasons why I avoided it for decades. It's just too many police hassling foreigners about shit, and it's just like I just don't want to get involved in that. I just want to put myself in that situation, so I'll just go somewhere else. And it's worked out for me just fine. For going on like 5, going on 6 years. Or I guess 7 in total with Navy experience. Anyway, regardless, let's continue.
I was kind of lucky though. My last few years in Japan, when I was living in Osaka, the area I was in, I think the police just knew who I was, and they've
Hold on.
years in Japan when I was living in Osaka.
Are you sure he's still living in Japan? Makes it sound like he's not living in Japan anymore. I could be wrong though. Maybe I'm just reading too much into the language, but it makes it, he's making it sound like he doesn't live in Japan anymore, even though I'm pretty sure he does. But regardless, anyway.
Osaka, the area I was in, I think the police just knew who I was, and they've never bothered me in the area I lived there.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just had the
another
low
thing.
battery thing show up on screen, so it might have messed up this video. But guys, I just don't even have time to re-record.
If you're a
Sorry.
regular, they're not
trying to
gonna
go through this. Only got 5% left on the iPad that I'm recording on right now. Yeah, the police used to stop me and check if my bike was actually my bike, that I hadn't stolen it. Like, is my umbrella? Did you not steal it? That kind of stuff. Weeaboos suck. Yeah, Ryan had a huge hate for Weeaboos. His whole Dream Crusher series was pretty much made to get Weeaboos to not come to Japan, which I kind of agree with too. I mean, I think if you have an image of Japan as this sort of anime wonderland, this like manga wonderland, that's a bad idea. Don't imagine Japan is like that and come here and live like that. You will never be Japanese. This is true. Even people like there was a guy.
Okay, I partially agree with this. And I think that's kind of the reason why Ryan's series took off as well as it did is it because it flew in contrary to a lot of the more positive content about Japan. And I would say as long as you're willing to be open to new things and willing to experience new things, I think anybody should come to Japan. Doesn't matter if you're a super fucking weeb or if you are more of an auteur and just like watching old Kurosawa films and shit like that. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading too much into how he's speaking. He just made it sound like he wasn't living in Japan anymore, so I was kind of confused there. But yeah, I mean, if he's still in Japan, he's still in Japan. But regardless, as far as people, discouraging people from coming to Japan, I don't really agree with that sort of strategy. Because even if people aren't equipped to come to Japan, I think they should at least try it and just see, like, is this for me, right? Like, is Japan for me? Whether it's long term, short term. I mean, it's perfectly valid to like just want to experience a new country for a few months or a year or whatever, and then just go back home. Like, that's perfectly valid. A lot of people, they think like everybody should be here for like the long haul, and if you're not, then you're a fucking loser that shouldn't be here. And it's just like, some people just want to stay here for a little bit. They don't want to stay here for the long haul. They just want to get their foreign exchange experience and then fuck off back to their homeland or somewhere else. But it just is what it is. But I think, again, if the main takeaway with these sorts of videos is that you should, take the good with the bad. Take what Ryan has to say as, some negative aspects about living in Japan. Some shit you might not be prepared for, and shit that may come up. Not saying it will come up, but shit that may come up. Or if it does come up, it may not be as as exaggerated as it's presented in these videos.
And he got married to a Japanese woman, had his gave up his his Canadian citizenship. Sorry, he was Canadian.
Oh, that whole shit. Yeah, that's Jesus. Gonna get me going on another rant here. My God. Oh goodness. Yeah, the whole like you'll never be Japanese. That used to bother me a lot when I first got to Japan, because as an American I'm used to like assimilating. Like, yeah, I'm not from here, and I didn't grow up with the same stuff that you guys grew up with, but you know, if I spend enough time and hang out with you guys enough, then I'll be part of the group, I'll be part of the gang, and who cares, right? You know, because that's the American way of thinking. It's just, yeah, I mean, you moved from another country to America, but after a while, you assimilate and you become American. You know, that's just the mentality. But that's not really the case so much here in Japan. Like, it doesn't matter if you've been here for 2 months or 25 years, you're still considered a gaijin. You're still considered a foreigner. And, you know, some people may rub them the wrong way and they may feel slighted about it. Others may feel a little more empowered by it and use that, you know, the gaijin card, as we call it over here, to get away with a lot of shit. But, you know, I think the real trick is finding that sweet spot somewhere in the middle, and just kind of accepting the fact that, yeah, you're not Japanese, you didn't grow up here, you're not from here. You know, taking a lot of xenophobic and racist connotations out of it. It's like, you are who you are. It is what it is. You know, shogunai, and just live your life out here. You know, just accept that you won't be Japanese, but still find your own little place within the community. And I think that's ultimately the way to go about it. Plus, even if by some chance you were to become fully Japanese and be brought into the community that way, you'd just be another Japanese person. You know? So, if you're just looking to be just an ordinary person, just go back to your home country. You'll be just another Canadian or just another American or whatever, and just, you know. But at least with you being not Japanese, there's conversation starters, for better or worse. You know. So it just comes with the territory, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. Right, he's back in the U.S. Just watched a small part of his failures in the U.S. for success. Oh, so he is back in the U.S. Okay, well, I guess failures in the U.S. Giving old Mr. Ackerman my money, apparently in watch time. Yeah, I saw that video here. Let me cue that up here. The success or failures in this guy. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll cue that guy up, and let's failures in U.S. Oh, okay. So we'll do that one next, and then the while I was away. We'll probably speed through these next two, just because I'm just more curious about what's going on here. So we'll just kind of speed through these. I'm not gonna sit and watch the whole thing. But yeah, so let's carry on. Yeah, because I was curious because I don't know a lot of spaces in Japan that have these sorts of doorknobs, and just the layout of the room is very not Japanese, you know, and just the other shots that he's shown are just very not Japanese. But regardless, let's carry on.
Before, got his Japanese passport, changed his name to Kanji, and just still never felt like he was Japanese. Which I understand. Like, he actually left the country eventually after he got divorced from his wife and stuff like that. I need to do a whole series on Daibito. His story's pretty interesting, but I feel like there's no point in ever trying to become Japanese. You'll never be seen as Japanese. You know, the closest you could become, and this is sad to say, is like if you're of some other Asian descent and then you get your citizenship changed to Japanese. I think that's the closest you could ever come to having Japanese people accept you as Japanese. Like as a white or other colored person.
Well, even still, I mean, service level, yeah. you would be considered that. But you know, if they start digging assumed Japanese citizenship, even in that regard, you're still won't be considered Japanese by the public. You know, so again, some people can't accept it and they feel negative about it. They feel like they've been ostracized and pushed away. Other people embrace it a little too closely and do a bunch of shit to really push the gaijin card and try to be that wacky foreign person that's just all kooky and shit, and their act kind of runs stale, so they're constantly making new friends and stuff to keep the act going and the facade going. And then others, it's just you just gotta find that sweet spot of like, yeah, you know, I'm not Japanese. I won't be Japanese. I am what I am. That's all I am. Bye bye the Sailor Man. Or you know, Shogunai. It just is what it is. And just be a part of your own little communities and carry on smartly from there. So, God, it's 5 o'clock already. Jesus, this day is going by fast. Anyway,
We're not about to become Japanese or be accepted as Japanese ever, no matter how good your
Right.
Japanese gets. Culturally,
actually, since it's getting a little darker, let me grab a light because I notice I'm appearing a little dark in here. Ourselves a little light. Oh, you can't see me. There we go. Okay. So got ourselves a little light from the corner there. Shit. I don't have a. Trying to figure out where to put this. Yeah. I guess I'll just find a spot to just kind of lay it down on. Fuck, here. Oh, actually. Yeah, let's do it like this. See if this works. Maybe. Get it to look right. I don't have a. Oh no, I'm not using that clip. We'll use a different clip anyway. Bupe. Okay. Boop. Jesus. Okay. That's not the most flattering of looks. Yeah, it'd be ideal if I could put it here, but there's nothing to like hold on to, so it just falls right down. Jesus. It's not the sexiest looking angle, but guess we'll have to make do like that. Let's turn that brightness down just a little bit. There we go. Just so it's a bit more even, so you can see me a little better. Okay. Anyway, let's crack on.
sensitive. I kind of already went over that, where they, don't know anything about your country. But I mean, to be fair, I mean, we don't really know a lot about Japan. The questions I hear asked about Japan especially after I've moved back to America, can you speak Japan? That's my favorite question. Where in China is Japan?
Oh Jesus. Yeah. So I guess we didn't have to watch that video. He has moved back.
Or some of the kids at my school who would ask me, what state is Japan? I'd be like, oh no, this is not
It's
good.
Ohio,
You're
obviously.
in middle school. You shouldn't be asking questions like that. These last two big ones, these were big on his Dream Crusher series. And if you don't know, like I keep saying Dream Crusher was a series that he pretty much made to crush the dreams of anybody thinking moving to Japan would be this wonderland, which I get it, I understand. Japan is not a first world country. I understand why he says this, because there's certain things they do in Japan you're just kind of like, why are we still doing this in the year 2000? Like, what? So, like, we still don't have central AC or heat. It's miserably hot throughout the summertime. Some schools still don't have air condition. There's buildings that are completely made of wood, but I mean, there's kind of a reason behind that, because they can survive earthquakes better. I don't know, the last one, fake politeness. Yeah, okay, I think there's fake politeness all over the world, but Japan is big on the fake politeness, where they'll, smile and...
Yeah, so damn, he really covered like a lot of stuff here. Hold on. It's not dark, it's just getting darker, so let me shut the blinds here. Let's see. going here. But yeah, he covered a lot of ground there as far as different topics. What was I saying? Oh, the fake politeness. The tatai versus honmai. Just kind of more of a public face versus like your actual feelings. I mean, that's not a strictly Japanese thing. I mean, a lot of people in America do that. It's just that Americans are more apt to speak their minds than other countries do. Versus Japan, who just kind of wants to keep the peace and not say anything controversial or something that would upset people and upset the general vibe of the conversation. So that's why they have the tatemae, which is the public face, the face you put on for people who are out in the public, don't really know you all that well, or you just want to keep the peace, basically. Just kind of think of it in terms of like, your kind of like work mode versus at home mode. Like you wouldn't talk the same way at work as you would at home. So it's kind of like that in that regard. Um, but a lot of people just kind of blow it out of proportion as this like strictly Japanese thing, and like it's not. Like Americans do it all the time. It's not that uniquely Japanese, guys. You know, you get all these articles like only in Japan you experience tatemae and honmai. But come on. With Chris Poplar, the Japanese people. Sorry, that's my like announcery voice. But yeah.
Nod their head to everything or say maybe when really they want to say no, and they can't
Right.
exactly help you with whatever your situation is. I've had that happen many times with banks, where bank people will be super polite and smile the whole time, but
Yeah.
then not solve any of your problems. You're like, I need this money exchange, or I need to, open a new account. I need to change the name on this account. The kanji that I'm using on this account doesn't work with the things I'm trying to fill out online. Please show me what to do. And just kind of like, no.
Oh god, I ran into this issue with my bank a long time ago, because with how the names are sequenced in Japan, it's the opposite of in America, where it would be first name last name. In Japan, it's last name first name, but also in Japan they don't have middle names, so it's just last name first name. That's it. Um, but obviously in other countries they have middle names as well. And the bank that I have um, they don't really process middle names, and they also one of the only banks that I know of that are based in Japan that read your name in the Western style, so it'd be first name last name. And when I was trying to do some stuff, um, I remember I had this huge issue with the bank trying to transfer some money for me because it had it actually wasn't the bank, it was the person transferring the money to me. It wasn't a person, it was a company technically, but regardless, because they knew me from last name, first name, middle name, but I was transferring it to a bank in Japan that had first name, last name, and they were like, "Eh, eh, eh, is this your bank account? Who is this person? What is your relationship to this person?" I'm like, "It's me," and they're like, "No, it's not. This is a different name. Different name. No, it's not you. Obviously, it's not you. That cannot be you because that is not your name." I'm like, it is my name. It was just first name, last name. There was no middle name, and it was in the Western order, so it confused them, and they eventually called the whole thing off. So I wasn't able to get it transferred, unfortunately. Um, so yeah, that was kind of my issue, and then I tried to get it changed to the banks so they would include my middle name to make it a little easier. Um, but I could never get it fully put in because if I would go to the banks, they would say no, we don't do middle names because Japan. No Japanese people have middle names, obviously, you know. But online you could put in a middle name, but whenever I would submit the form, it just wouldn't go through. So maybe I'll try again, but I'm not feeling too confident. I thought he left Japan like a while before that. Again, I didn't follow Ryan too closely, so he may be right on this, but part of me says that he left for Africa like way before that happened. I could be wrong though. I don't know.
And I believe that was the time that he made the move to Africa. And he is still there now. He is still updating, still doing YouTube videos. So he's not really a YouTuber who quit. He's just a YouTuber who quit being a J-vlogger, which is fine. And I gotta say, now, if you check out his channel and check out what Ryan Boundless is doing, I mean, the guy looks ultra happy. He's living his best life. I wish him nothing but the best, and I see like a good future for his channel because what he's doing is completely unique. There's not a lot of Africa-based vloggers out there, so he is doing something new and fresh, and he's got like this really positive, upbeat attitude, and he looks like he's killing it out there. I wish him nothing but the best, but he is the one J-vlogger I would say that he came to Japan and hated Japan, and his entire theme was the J-vlogger who hated Japan. My opinion on him, though, is that he was always polite to me in any interaction he had with me. He was never rude. Even when I did certain things in his videos where I was just like, okay, this is kind of true, but this is not true. Ryan's getting kind of crazy in this video. He was super polite. Be like, yeah, you're right. I probably was too much exaggeration with that. So, I mean, his dialogue with me was always super polite. Any other YouTuber I've ever talked to who's interacted with him said he was like a super nice guy in person. And he was never ever, like, he never held it against any of us when we would like call him out for going overboard on some of his extreme videos about hating Japan. The one I think that got the most clout for my channel was Ryan Boundless is Starving in Japan. And it was about Ryan had gone to a Konbini, and he had a whole video rant about how the Konbini sandwiches only had one slice of ham in it, and that he would literally starve if he tried to live off of Konbini food. And he's right.
I'm gonna call bullshit on that one. As someone who gained a shit ton of weight eating primarily Konbini food, I'm going to hard disagree there. But I will say that portion-wise, again, this is kind of going back a bit earlier in the video. Yeah, the portions are much smaller, unfortunately. And if you go for like the ham sandwiches, they don't always have the biggest slices. But again, it depends on which community you go to. And what type of sandwich you get, because there's some that, you know, like at 7-Eleven you get like the rolls and they're just like chocked to the brim full of meat and shit. And there's others where it's just like a paper thin slice of ham, maybe like 2 or 3 cucumbers and just a fucking dot of mayonnaise and gambari macho, and that's it. So
I gave him some shit in that video, but he was right. I mean, the Konbini sandwiches are garbage sandwiches. I wouldn't suggest them as like...
Yo, Chota, your mate's there, my guy. They are not garbage sandwiches. Now, are there better sandwiches out there? Obviously. But in terms of convenience and value, no. I stand with the Konbini sandwiches. No, hard disagree. Sorry.
A healthy form of meal for the day, and they do always like, they have these weird ways of packing them where they fold the meat like multiple times to make it look like you have these multiple layers of meat, but then you open up the sandwich and it's like one piece of lettuce and like a piece of meat folded a million times to look like layers and layers upon meat. So that's my biggest memory of Ryan. And like I said, my opinion, nice guy, good interactions, good dialogue, and I think if he was ever your friend, he would be the type of blunt friend that might get you upset sometimes because he would be too honest with you, but he would be looking out for your best interest the whole time.
Yeah.
I think, does that make sense? I hope you understand that description.
No, I think that makes sense. He's the guy that just, you know, thinks he's telling it like it is, but is just, in reality, is too focused on the negative things rather than taking the negative aspects, but also mixing it in with the positive as well. The video started taking psych drugs. Well, I mean, apparently he's back in America now, so it's very possible. Again, this is the first time I've seen old Mr. Ackerman here in many years. So I have no idea what he's been up to lately.
Anyway, sorry to cut this video so short. This is like one of my shortest ones I've done in a long time. But I gotta go. I gotta get out of here and start heading on.
Oh shit. Okay. Well, okay then. All right. So we're gonna move on. Not to this one.
Hey guys.
because I really want to spend some time in this one. But we're just gonna kind of skim through these next two videos up here because I kind of want to see like what led to Scott Unrested going back to America. So I'm a little curious about that. So we're just gonna skim through, and maybe I'll give my thoughts, and then we'll move on to this video, which I'm very.
Hey guys, what's up? Unrested
Hey.
here in Japan.
In Japan, Jesus, you look like you're in a prison cell, my guy. Goodness gracious.
As you can see, I'm back in my old house here. I'm gonna be throwing some footage though over this video so that you don't just have to stare at me in one tiny little room. You can get some footage of where I'm headed to today. I'm actually headed to a Ryokan in just a bit. You can see I'm packing a bag right here. But before I go, I wanted to record a video. And I'm sorry, number one, for the quality. I left my mic back in America. Stupid. So you are getting really raw, ugly vocals. And I'm sorry for that, but I'll try to pick up a mic while I'm here. I need a new mic anyway, so we'll get that. But let's get into just the things we are talking about. The time I canceled myself on YouTube. I ruined my own channel. This actually really affected my channel quite a bit. This is
Oh shit! Whoops, wrong video. We'll get to this one in a sec. I'm talking about this guy.
Hey guys,
My
what's up?
bad.
Unrested back. This is my first day waking up at a normal time. Recovered from the jet lag of being in Japan for 2 months. You know, it's easy to adjust sometimes if you go to another country for 2 weeks and come back to your own country. Maybe take you a couple days to adjust. But man, after 2 months of sleeping on a 13-hour different schedule and then adjusting back, it was
Oh, come on now.
really hard to stay up past like 1 or 2 p.m. in the afternoon and not wake up at 12 a.m. in the middle of the night for the last 3 to 4 days. Hence, I've been kind of
Right.
I haven't missed a weekend in, gosh, the past year. So let's stick to that, okay? Let's talk about the differences between living a fruitful and healthy lifestyle in Japan and America. My last two videos, one was corporate failures in Japan, and the other one was Gaijin who moved to Japan and kind of failed in business. So I want to go on more of a positive spin for this one, and maybe talk about some of the negatives that America is doing, where they're not quite living as healthy of a lifestyle as Japan. You know, we harp on Japan sometimes for working too late hours. In the past, we used to harp on them for things like smoking. When I first moved there, smoking. Japanese people used to smoke like chimneys, and it was the most wonderful food you'll ever eat, and I sometimes couldn't. And I came back to America after not living here for 15 years. There's a lot of my greasy food that America serves. In my first year back here, I indulged, man. I was eating burgers, I was eating pizzas, I was eating macaroni and cheese, I was eating...
So apparently he's been back in America for over a year now, based on this. Yeah.
fried chicken, everything I could get my hands on that was very difficult to get a good version of in Japan. Yes, you can get those things in Japan. You can get your fried chicken, you can get your hamburger, you can get your pizza, but you're not getting high quality stuff. It's like buying sushi in America. Sushi in America, everything. They just spend more time, you know, free range chickens, fresh food to congeal a little bit with some kind of jelly or some kind of like syrup. But for the most part, it's more... I felt like it tasted like the way grass smells or the way like dirt smells, like fresh. I'm just munching a little bit here or there to keep my energy up, right? No, that's considered ultra rude. If you're going to bring something to eat, you need to bring enough to share with everybody. And if you're not going to do that, then it's not a meal that you're preparing for everybody. So don't do it. It's rude. You know, a very Japanese thing, but I think also that keeps them very...
Don't know if he got divorced or not. I don't fucking know.
very healthy. Not snacking in between meals makes a big difference. Balance your free time. You know, I always talk about there's not a lot of balance for Japanese people as far as like what they do with work. Work takes up way too much of their time, and I still think that's a huge issue in Japan. I think the American work-life balance is way better. I think that's one thing America's done way better is 8 hours for the most part at work. And let me tell you, I'm a teacher.
It's very much your mileage may vary, because there's been cases in America where you're given like a shit ton of overtime, and especially if you're on salary, like you're on call all the time. So it depends on the job, but yeah, I'd say for the most part, the work-life balance is better. There's more separation, I should say. A son? I knew he had at least a kid, but I'm pretty sure he has like 2 or 3 at this point. Last I heard, anyway. Again, this is like the first I've seen him in years, so...
I work some shifts that go way beyond 8 hours. I got my 15.5-hour to 16-hour shifts that I've worked before. So, you know, I'm not trying to put Japan in its place by telling them how perfect my work schedule is. But we do have a work-life balance. And I think one thing that we don't have a balance with...
You know, again, like I said, the separation of work and home is much better in America than it is in Japan, where work kind of becomes your identity for a lot of people. And that's kind of where things get tricky you know.
It's what we do with that free time after work. If I asked people watching Japanese TV still, some streaming services are slowly starting to trickle into Japan. They've got their Netflix, they've got their Hulu. I don't think HBO Max.
All right, I don't think this is gonna give us the deets.
Hey, what's up? This is probably maybe the worst time to make a video because I just finished cleaning my whole place and I'm sweaty and kind of gross. But there's daylight out now, and
I'm also gonna troll and patrol around the. I guess he still just has the sun. Okay.
this is an update video that's needed to come out for a very long time. And it's probably weird that you're even seeing me start the video in a place like this where you're like, where are you right now? Are you in a hotel? Are you in a rental? What are you doing? No, this is why I've been gone for so long. I am back in America. And don't worry, nothing's wrong with my family or anything like that. Still married to the same wonderful woman. Still got my two awesome, amazing kids. Half of them are in Japan still. My wife and my eldest,
Oh, so he does have multiple kids. See, I was right.
who just got into a primary school, which was very difficult for him to get into. Had just started his junior high school year in there and needs to pursue that because he's doing wonderful with his education. And then I've got the youngest here with me, and he's trying out the Western version of education because we wanted to see
Yeah, see, I was right. So I guess two sons. One with him and then the other with his wife.
how that would go for him, and that's kind of why I'm here. Also here because I don't know if you've checked out Japan's economy recently, not doing so hot. Just fell down below the GDP of Germany, now ranked 4th in the world for GDPs as far as where they are now financially. The yen is a little better right now than it had been over summer, but if you haven't been following the exchange rate, the yen is getting more and more worthless by the day, which is sad to see. I hate to see Japan take a fall like this. That doesn't mean it's going to continue downhill.
I think Japan will recover fine eventually. You probably know right now China's kind of going through what Japan went through back in the late 90s with their bubble bursting and their economy going downward because pretty much their whole GDP was in home ownership, residential business ownership. And that's what China's going through, but like 10, maybe 20 times worse. Luckily, Japan recovered because it wasn't a massive percentage of their GDP invested into that. But this is kind of getting into a boring talk. I guess let me tell you the story of how I got back here to America. My wife and I had been discussing doing this for over a year. My business is still running in Japan, where I got my English school. It's being run by a friend right now.
Okay.
But even at that school, I was getting lower and lower on students because since the economy is so bad, people give up luxuries right away. And what's a luxury? Learning English. So even I was having a reduced amount of students. Usually I had 12 a day. I was getting down to 8. And at that point, I wanted to keep the business and hand it over to a friend. And it's not some sort of me telling a tale of altruism. There's a tax break for keeping a business. And I had a friend who had always wanted to open his own business. And I thought, you know what, this is kind of the perfect offer. I get the tax break. He runs the business and collects the money for himself. I get a small percentage of it that allows me to claim the business in my taxes. So, I mean, there's win-win for both sides. Meanwhile, I still got that company running there. And I almost have our house completely paid off in Japan. Actually, I should say mostly my wife has the house almost completely paid off because she makes way more than I do. But at the same time,
She's like a
we had always talked
dental
about having an
assistant,
estate
I think,
plan
last
because by the time I had started to think about the future education of my youngest, there was quite a bit, and there still is, going on in Japan. You got the possibility of a giant earthquake in Osaka. You've got North Korea launching missiles right next to Hokkaido. And even closer than that, you've got tensions between China and Taiwan. You've got China constantly harassing Japan over the islands they want to take over. You've got a lot of tension in Asia right now. You've got an economy that's bombing. So also you've got to start to think about your retirement. I'm 44 years old. I will retire probably in 20 years, 22 years. My wife is 50. She's going to retire sooner. I need to start thinking about her and her future too. You know, eventually my kids are going to go off to college. I need to have a plan for them as well. Some of them. We talk about them like they're a large group. At least one of my kids has talked about going to college in America. So I've got to be able to establish that too. They both have American and Japanese citizenship. So if they decide to want to come over here and do that, I need to have a base set up for them to start to get ready to do that. You know, also just a retirement plan where do we want to retire in America or do we want to retire in Japan? Do we want to have options for both? Now, this doesn't mean I'm done with Japan. I'm going back there every summer. So pretty much half my life will be in America while I'm a teacher here teaching art, and half my life will be in Japan while I'm still getting paid as an art teacher but having the summer off. And I'll also be going to school again. I'll be going back to college. I'm going to attempt to get a master's in art education and maybe eventually go for my doctorate because, as you know, in the education system, the higher up you go, the more you get paid. And I'd like to reach the paramount of what a teacher in America can get. And the only way you do that is through education. I didn't necessarily ever want to reach that level. I never thought there was a super important point to doing that aside from if you wanted to become a college professor of what you taught. But if it's going to get me more in what I do now and I enjoy what I do now, I'll go for it. In the meantime, I still pursue my own art.
Yeah. Generally speaking, like if you have a master's degree, then you can teach at university. Not in all cases. Like there have been some cases where people without master's degrees teach at university, but for the most part, if you want to teach at a university level in Japan, you have to have a master's. And I think it's the same in America too. You have to have a master's too, preferably a doctorate, but at least a master's. So yeah, getting if that's what he wants to pursue is doing higher level education, then yeah, master's is the way to go, for sure. But yeah, this is really interesting. Um, it's kind of this interesting split that he has with living in America, but also going back to Japan to see his wife and his other kid, and still technically having a business in Japan, although he's not running the day to day anymore. He's still able to claim it on his taxes, and he has his friend basically run it for him. So he's in a pretty interesting spot right now. Actually, this is pretty smart for him. Um, I think we'll watch a few more minutes of this, and then we'll move on.
In fact, I'll show you some of that now. Let me go ahead and switch over to, I guess, a little bit of a tour of my house, and I guess a tour of like all the things I've been working on since I've moved into this wonderful place. Let's start in my favorite room here, the art room, where I continue to work on probably what you've seen me
I'm
talk
sure
about in
that's
other
nice.
videos. This whole
It's not why we're here, though. Sorry, Scott.
for having to live with their parents to get back on their feet again. It has to happen to you probably in life over and over again. I'll do the same for my kids if they ever need a restart. I guess I wasn't really doing a restart. I was doing a expansion, if you will, for my family. It was rough. I love my mom and dad. They're awesome. But I also had to constantly work on getting myself reestablished. I jumped back in. I got a job probably within the first 2 weeks I was here. You probably know America in general seems pretty desperate for teachers, so it was kind of easy for me to jump back into the whole teaching.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I was gonna say, like, how the hell did he get a job so fast? And like, yeah, the amount of teachers in America has dropped considerably, so they're in desperate need. So I guess, yeah, in that case, having teaching experience and even just a bachelor's, you can at least do substitute teaching. So
Thing considering I had already
so actually, now that he mentions this, even with just a bachelor's, worst case to worst comes to worst, I could technically go back to America and teach if I wanted to. If it came to that, not that I would, but that option's available.
taught 15 years back in Japan. So that was probably the easiest transition, was just getting a job. One of the hardest transitions was I was originally 44 minutes away from my job and having to travel down the highway to get there each day. And that was pretty brutal, 44 minutes back and forth after an 8 to 12-hour day, because those of you who work as teachers know sometimes you do those 12-hour days. Now I'm only 8 minutes. God, it is magnificent to be only 8 minutes from your job. I searched for a house every weekend, so even when I wasn't working, I wasn't really able to relax very much. I had to go around searching for a place to live. Not always the most fun to do, especially when you waste your money on an inspection on a place you never end up buying because you about moving back to the States. Well, I think one thing I super miss about Japan is just being able to walk to anything. You go downstairs from your apartment and everything's there for you. Restaurants, convenies, clothing stores, anything you would possibly need. And dress like this and nobody looks at me like I'm a criminal. That's nice. What else? People are always astounded that I've been in Japan this long. People ask me if I speak Japan, which I never knew how many people don't know the language is called Japanese. Like, they just keep asking, do you speak Japan? That is weird. That kind of shocked me. I'm shocked sometimes by how many people ask me how China was after I just said Japan. And I have to remind them that this is like that. They're cheaper and you get more for your money. Insurance is outrageous in America compared to Japan. You'll have permanent residencies in Japan. You just get your passport stamped a certain way, and as long as you don't stay out of Japan for more than 2 years, your permanent residency keeps applying forever. You just got to keep moving back and forth between the two countries. So I guess that's a new thing I learned. I don't know what else. I guess when I bring my money over to Japan, I'm like a mega rich man now because of the exchange rate. Other than that,
again, it's a smart play. So, do I speak Japan? No, I don't speak Japan, unfortunately. And I don't know how China is in Japan either, so. But yeah, so I think we'll cut it off here as far as this video goes. I say, just in the interest of time, I'll watch these others later, but I'd say just to end the stream here, because I am getting a little hungry, and not for Kamini Sando. We'll end the stream here watching this video about the late forever great Roger Swan, and then we'll sign off.
Hey guys, what's up? Unrested Back.
Okay, let's. Where's the thingy at? Settings. Yeah, it's just a little too fast. My bad, guys. Up it down. There we go.
Again, and today I want to cover the biggest, the best, and pretty much the harbinger of the entire JVlogger movement, the OG of OG YouTubers, Roger Swan. He pretty much was the first ever to create what we called JVlogging. He came to Japan before.
No, I. As much of a Roger Swan fanboy as I am, I hard disagree. He was far from one of the first people to do it. He's certainly in the conversation for like OG JVlogger status, but no, Tokyo Kuni did it before him. Victor did it before him. Softy Papa did it before him. There's a couple others as well that just were both in the summertime and in the wintertime, and I just thought those videos were fascinating. And he was technically the first JVlogger I ever watched, and he was out there years before Cooney or Swan were. But, in terms of that initial, I guess I would say like maybe the golden age of JVlogging, if you will. Yeah, Roger's definitely in that conversation for sure. But he was far from the first. But yeah, definitely in that golden age of JVlogging, I'd say.
Most of us, he started filming in Japan before most of us, and he started documenting life and all kinds of passions he had for the culture, the people, the language, and everything in between. I myself first picked up with Roger's videos when he started to cover a horror series, but before we get into all that, I want to start by saying, number one, I took a bunch of notes for this, and I'm going to read directly from them verbatim as to not to dishonor anything about this great man, and also just to make sure I get the facts, the dates, the places correct. So bear with me if you see me have to look down and read. Beginning with the start of Roger and how he ended up in Japan. Roger was born in Urbana, Illinois on December 19, 1986 to Randy and Roberta Swan. Roger graduated from Lakeview High School in 2005 and received his bachelor's degree in English with honors from Western Michigan University in 2009. For his junior year at WMU, Roger received a full scholarship to attend Keio University in Tokyo, Japan. And that's where his journey begins with his first channel called Tokyo Swan. And this is pretty much
not his first channel. It's not even his first series. But yeah, Roger never had any other channels. I think he misspoke here. It was his first Japan-based series, like talk about life in Japan type stuff. Before that, his channel consisted of some like music collabs and just kind of random odds and ends. But even before he got to Japan, he started his J-horror series, talking about horror movies from Japan. And then that's when he made the move out to Keio University in Tokyo to start the Tokyo Swan series, which is, I don't know, with Roger, like a lot of it seems like more people know him from his J-horror series than his Japan vlog series. But to me, I always knew him best from the Tokyo Swan series, and then later his Iwate Swan series. But I guess it depends on what audiences you were a part of back in those days.
Much where JVlogging was invented. I mean, this man picked up his camera, started documenting his life there, talking about the things he loved, walking around with the camera, trying out different foods, sites, festivals, and everything like that. To give you an example, here is a list of some of his very first videos, which none of us have started doing this yet. First videos filmed were in his dorm while studying abroad, just talking about like what his study area was like, when his school was open, how he attended classes on Saturday, how long his classes were, how hard some of the kanji and studying was, exploring and eating in Akihabara, showing what class was like at Keio University.
Yeah, some of those Akiba vlogs, even as somebody with ready access to going out to Akihabara these days, it's just wild to see like the differences from Akiba back in 2008 versus Akiba in 2024. Yeah, these days it's very tourist trappy. There's a lot of stuff that's more catered towards tourists, which is great for tourists. It makes their visit to Akiba easier, but personally, I think it's lost a lot of its charm over the years, unfortunately, due to tourism. And sad to say, I think Nakano Broadway is also getting to that direction as well. But I would say between the two, I would probably pick Nakano Broadway over Akiba. just in terms of selection of goods. Price wise varies depending on the store, but they're about the same. But you can find just a better selection of goods at Nakano Broadway versus Akiba, generally speaking. Unless you're going for like the newer stuff. For like the older stuff, Nakano Broadway all the way.
Going to festivals near his university, which first guided to show people what an awesome matsuri looked like in Japan, and partying in Shibuya and singing karaoke, which he was actually pretty decent at karaoke. Roger had a voice on him; he had a set of pipes.
Yeah, he was pretty okay at singing like George Michael and Duran Duran and stuff like that. He was pretty decent. Not the best, but he wasn't terrible.
He eventually went back to America, but came back to Japan again when he was later accepted into the JET program. But we're skipping too far ahead. I want to cover just a little bit more in between there. From his first channel called Tokyo Swan to
series, not channel.
his eventual creation to Iwate Swan, which was the district he moved back into when he came back to Japan, you really saw Roger grow up through these videos. He found his voice, he found his personality, he found what he loved to talk about, he found a great way to present himself from like kind of this nervous, sort of shy, quiet guy to showing just a big smile.
Oh shit, my bad. I forgot to put on captions with this. Sorry guys, hold on. Yeah, where's the caption button? Sorry, like 3 minutes in this video and I forgot to put that on, my bad.
On his face and passion for everything he talked about in Japan. And the most amazing thing about him, I'd say, is that any research I did on this guy, everybody who interacted with him said that he was the most humble, most sincere, genuine guy who would go out of his way to help you with pretty much anything you were doing.
Yeah, I mean, even with my own experiences with Roger, like I never like spoke to him over the phone or in person or anything like that, but we corresponded in YouTube comments, and I've sent him some emails, and we talked a bit on Facebook. I remember one day reading super nice, super giving. Any sort of question or whatever I would have, he would be more than willing to answer to the best of his ability. And just a really super chill dude to talk with about whatever, you know. And it's just a damn shame I never got to meet him in person and, you know, do a collab or at least just thank him in person for the videos that still inspire me to this day. You know, like it's been going on 15 years at this point. It'll be 15 years next year. When he passed away, I believe it was 2010. I think, yeah, passed away in 2010. So yeah, going on 15 years. I have to pull out another video. I guess. I remember I did a video for the 10-year anniversary of his passing, and you know, I still stand by it even today of how inspirational he's been. But we'll get in more into this video rather than me gushing about Roger the whole time.
One was by Dogen. You may know Dogen, who does most of his channel in Japanese, very fluent speaker.
Yeah.
Dogen had this story about how he wanted to impress a girl he was dating at the time with a story that he was writing.
Back when he was known as
Roger
Dogen
helped
Tricks.
chip in, making sure to edit and finish the
Not the
story.
guy
And he
who
said
speaks
Roger had
Japan-
helped him write it so good that when he
the
gave
guy
it to
who
his
speaks
girlfriend,
Japan good.
she was moved to tears. And this is like story after story of Roger doing stuff like this, of just like taking an extra moment, an extra step to acknowledge what people need, to listen to what people need, and go the extra mile to like help them enjoy life a little bit more. There's other stories of like how every time he talked to someone, he would end his sentences or anything he was talking to them about by saying, "Thank you, Mark," or "That's great to hear, Lisa." Apparently, he would always end by making sure he said your name again to let you know he was listening. Like a person who was very empathetic and very conscious of those around him. There is no bad words to be said about Roger. But let's get back into just kind of how his whole evolution began on YouTube. So Tokyo Swan, his first videos, just walking around like we all did, like walking around Japan, filming here and there.
Yeah.
Editing his videos before any of us even edited. Most of us just sat in front of the camera and talked about what life was like in Japan. He's there editing clips of him in different places, eating different.
Yeah, true. A lot of the, unfortunately, a lot of the early J-Vlog stuff was just dudes with webcams sitting in their shitty-ass Leo Palace apartments talking about Japan stuff rather than going outside and showing it. But, you know, if you were in the community, you were in it to win it. So you would still watch those videos and everything like that. So
food, trying out different things. One's like him eating this crazy giant ice cream cone. Another one is him enjoying multiple different places ramen and comparing them with his friends and stuff like that. Another one is him helping his friend, like of course he always does, helping everybody, move into another apartment by carrying these massive amount of suitcases full of workout equipment, which, I mean...
Yeah, one of his one of his friends got accepted into a homestay program. So instead of staying in the dorms, he would stay with this Japanese family to help improve his Japanese and improve cultural international relations and things like that. So I remember him moving all his stuff into this little tiny ass shoe closet of a room. It was crazy.
mean, anybody who's had to do a move in Japan via train carrying luggage knows how brutal that is, and he's just doing it as a friend
Yep.
because this is Roger's way. Classmates would describe him as quiet but extremely polite, chill, and easy to talk to, and would always make sure to use people's names when ending a conversation to let you know he was always listening and acknowledging you. There are still to this day multiple Facebook groups, blogs, videos, tributes talking about this guy and just like what kind of impact he made on everybody's life. And I think there hasn't been much mention of him recently just because we've gotten so deep into YouTube's evolution and it's been such a long time since he started his videos that I want to just bring this up one more time to just celebrate not only him pretty much being one of the birthers of J-vlogging, if you will, and just what he contributed to the kind of community that we had and some of us who still have this going on today. He returned to America for a short time after his Tokyo Swan videos. He went back to Western Michigan University and was at that time writing articles for a Sega fan site, and he actually wrote articles for a blog that Dogen had at the time too, called, I believe it was called Tokyo Shelf, and it was covering things like manga, graphic novels, and books from Japan that he was reading and was recommending.
I don't know about Tokyo Shelf, but he did have unfortunately a short-lived series called J Shelf on his channel. It was only like four videos, unfortunately, but it was kind of recommending different Japanese things. Like he would talk about like music or movies, kind of outside of the J horror series. Like he would talk about. That's where I first heard about Densho no Otoko, Train Man. Learned about Sakamoto Ryuji and his then new album. Just a couple different things, you know. So that's you know
Back was because he was accepted into the JET program. If you don't know what the JET program is, it's pretty much the cream of the crop when it comes to getting an English teaching job in Japan. There is a brutal interview that you go through that is
yeah, it's yeah, if people are coming over to Japan to teach, JET program is like the way to do it in terms of pay and how they take care of you and everything like that. It's a much higher pay scale than most other English teaching gigs. And then they take care of you. You know, they furnish your place and all this, that, and the other. Obviously, there's a lot of caveats with that as far as like where you're placed in Japan and how good of a relationship you have with the dispatching team and all this, that, and the other. So again, experiences may vary. I've heard some Jets living like kings and queens, and others sitting on the street eating pork and beans, if you will. So, but generally speaking, Jet's like the way to come to Japan to teach English. Not that it can't be done otherwise, but it's the best way to do it. Just for context. But you do have to go through this huge interview process, like what Scott's saying here, and submit essays and all this different paperwork and stuff. I had considered doing the JET program, you know, when I had originally gone back to America, because I did want to go back to Japan, but I figured that was kind of one of the avenues that I could do it. If I couldn't, get onto a study abroad program, then I'll just finish my degree, apply to JET, and then get accepted that way. That was an avenue, but I ended up getting accepted to a school based in Japan, so I came back to Japan earlier than expected. So, life's funny like that sometimes.
multiple layers, sets, courses, panel interviews, all different types of stuff they make you go through. It's not like one of these rinky-dinky Kiowa English conversation schools like Nova or GABA where you're just given a quick 1-2 and, hey, can you speak? Do you breathe? Good, you're an English teacher. JET goes into like a whole background check, seeing everything you did at university, checking what your experiences are with how much you can speak Japanese, all different types of stuff. Like just a really thorough interview. And the fact that he made it through that is like, he's getting picked out of literally thousands and thousands of applicants. So you can just see where this guy was the elite of people teaching in Japan, speaking English.
I mean, there have been some real stinkers going through the JET program too. They're not all that in a bag of chips, as the saying used to go. But I will say it is a rigorous interview process and screening process. But yeah.
In Japan, teaching it in Japan, learning the language, and he was pretty much, they said at this point, like nearly fluent in Japanese because he had gone to Keio University to take JLPT level 1, which is like the highest level course you.
I didn't know he took JLPT. That's news to me, but hey, it rhymed. But I will say, just to kind of add on to Scott's point here, is that he did do some translation work when he was back at Western Michigan. I remember the Japanese teacher he was working with at the time, who later became the department head of Japanese language when I went there. Apparently, he did some translation work with him and released it into a book. It was basically an English translation of some Japanese literature. So that was pretty cool. That Roger basically translated, and it got approved by his teacher, who was the department head when I went through Western Michigan.
Can take in Japanese, like you really need to be good. To give you an idea, I passed level 4 and got into starting to study level 3, and level 3 was just so brutal to me. There's these things called bushu, which are like these little extensions of every kanji that you study, that in my mind was so weak I couldn't carry these different bushu and how they change between kanji. It was like carrying around sand in my hands and trying to get it from one place to another when it was like trying to keep these bushu in my mind. And Roger's here at level JLPT 1, which is the highest level. I know it sounds weird, but the lower the number is, the harder the test is, and JLPT 1 is the highest level you're going to complete. Like literally you can.
Right. I thought Scott at least had his N2. Thought he had N2 at least by now, but I guess for his line of work, he probably doesn't need it that much, in fairness. But yeah, I had no clue Roger took the JLPT, but it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, it still rhymed. That he would pass so well, because like I said, he seemed pretty fluent with at least reading the language. He only spoke Japanese a little bit in his videos, little snippets here and there. So it's hard for me to assess him speaking the language. But as far as reading and writing, definitely he was up there. Based on his study abroad experience, as well as just grinding, learning the language. He put in the work, man, for sure.
Work at a Japanese corporation as a fellow salaryman if you're at JLPT level 1. Like pretty much they considered you an equal on speaking. Rise to fame. He became one of the most popular gaijin to be making video at the time. He was literally up in the realm of like thousands to tens of thousands of subscribers. This was big. Okay, we're talking 2009. This is massive for this time. I know now you're like in a...
Past the 10K mark, I think you were considered like someone of importance. You were considered... It's basically the modern day equivalent of having like 1 million subscribers. It's like, oh, you're somebody. Well, okay. But nobody really saw the community getting higher than that. Now it's like, well, technically the most subscribed J vlogger has well over 100 million subscribers. So, how's it going, bros?
Early 2007, 2008. 15,000 at the time was meant you were blowing up. He was getting noticed by even bigger YouTubers, ones that were like double his size, such as Ken Tanaka, Tokyo Kuni, were shouting him out and recommending him because his videos were so solid and so correct with their information. A lot of people would BS or come to Japan and sometimes complain about how it wasn't like home, or try to talk about knowledge. Like even I'm guilty of this, things I'd mentioned about Japan and then look back later and be like, oh, I wasn't really totally correct about that. His stuff, you could go back now and watch his videos and they're still like 100% correct. No slip-ups, all information correct. This guy was well studied when it came to everything and anything that was Japanese. Now personally, my introduction, like I had said before, was getting introduced to Iwate Swan. He was on his Iwate Swan channel at this point. His horror movie reviews, and these were great. And let me just tell you, as someone who is a horror connoisseur who loves everything Asian horror, and I mean I watch everything, this guy knew his stuff. This guy was hardcore deep into every level of horror from Japan. I mean, we're talking psychological horror, splatterpunk, all different types of stuff. And his reviews were like really on point. Like he really had good taste when it came to horror. Like even the ones that he would talk about, like he would do a best and worst review, the ones he picked out as the worst, I'd be like, yeah, I'm so glad to hear someone finally say that movie was garbage. It was total garbage. But his good ones, like he picked out ones like a lot of people haven't even heard of before, like Gozu, which I'm sure not many people have watched that horror movie. Cairo, which most people know as Pulse. Very great review on that. Audition, which you gotta kind of be able to stomach to watch, but is an amazing horror movie. And then his one recommendation that he said, please don't ever watch this, it's total garbage, Kire. And actually this movie Kire is sometimes heralded as like this amazing psychological thriller from Japan about people being obsessed with plastic surgery and beauty. But his comments on it were like, there's unneeded nudity in it, there's overacting in it, the plot is so silly with how the stalking that goes on in this movie exists and how they could try to come up with the idea. And he's like so on point with every aspect of how this movie is bad that pretty much when I was looking up new stuff I wanted to see that I wasn't aware of, I would go to his videos to hear his reviews to be like, okay, if Roger says it's good, and it always was. This guy really, really knew what he was talking about when it came to horror. So that was my introduction. That's how I got to know him. I did actually write him a couple emails back when YouTube used to have an email.
Yeah, so I guess just briefly on the horror aspect, because that's not really something I paid too much attention to with Roger's stuff. I don't think it was until fairly recently when I started getting into a little bit with the J horror stuff that he was doing. I think it was when I was running his. I put together a Roger Swan tribute channel back when Google was threatening to pull videos for inactive accounts, and I basically made that archive channel just in case his channel would get pulled or something like that, because he's long since passed, so nobody's checking on his account regularly anymore. So because of that, his channel was at the time in the crosshairs of getting possibly deleted, or his videos at least getting deleted. And so I put together a tribute channel. It's basically an archive channel of his old videos. I would scale up the footage to 4K and clean up the audio a little bit. I did some tweaking here and there, but try to keep it as close to the original as possible. So it's still the 4:3 aspect ratio, but in a 4K resolution, or the 4:3 equivalent of 4K, I should say. Hey, that rhymed. But yeah, in doing that, I kind of got reintroduced to the J horror stuff that he was doing as well. So it's kind of interesting. Again, horror or J horror is not really up my alley as far as interests go. So it's not really my thing. But I do appreciate his passion and dedication to the genre for sure. And yeah, my introduction to Roger was through the Tokyo Swan series. So when he was starting to pop off, and I remember it was Tokyo Kuni, giving him a shout out, because I pretty much watched Tokyo Kuni and maybe a couple other smaller J vloggers, and that's about it at the time, because again the community was so small. There was really hardly anybody making videos about Japan at the time. But then Kuni did a shout out video, and he included Roger in one of the people he's shouting out. So I was like, oh, I gotta check this guy out. And he being Roger was so I think I felt more of a kindred spirit with Roger than I did with anybody else.
App or section or tab that you could go into, and him and I would talk back and forth about horror movies, and the guy just knew a ton more than me. I mean, he was so much deeper into it and knew so much more on levels of like, oh, you should watch this one. And I'd be like, oh, it's not translated yet. I don't quite there's no subtitles for my silly little English mind. And he'd be like, well, when it's finally translated, you should definitely check it out. Thanks, Roger. So this guy really knew his stuff. He was putting up more and more videos as he was getting into the JET program, and was filming all different types of adventures of exploring more of his area of Iwate. He was able now to not just cover the big city stuff that Tokyo gave him a chance to do when he was originally going to Keio University. Now he was doing like the countryside stuff. So you got this sort of like snowy countryside area, these mom and pop restaurants and stuff like this. And pretty much anybody who ran into this guy, being Japanese or Gaijin, just talked about like he would brighten up the room every time he would come in. He was one of these people who was adding more to the room as he filmed and talked about a place rather than distracting from the beauty, the culture, the area, the language, the people. He was adding more to it as he explored these places and showed them off on YouTube. And this is where we get into the really sad part. January 26, 2010, Roger suddenly died, age 23. I remember when I saw this, it was a tribute video that came out like a day or two after he had died, and I thought like, oh man, this is messed up. Like, why would somebody make a joke like this on YouTube? Like, Roger's not dead because he's like younger than me. He's like 23, and I think I was like 27.
Yeah, I first heard about it on I think it was Twitter at the time. Twitter was like super new, and I was following all the J vloggers and stuff, and I would hear there would be this like murmur of people saying, "Oh my God, Roger's dead," and it's like, what? And to me, it was just like, oh, he just released a video. Like, no, like, what are you talking about? He just released a video, and he said, his friends coming to visit him from Korea, so they're gonna make a couple videos together while he's out here. And just like, what? But it wasn't until I saw the update from Cooney to where I was like, oh shit, this is for real, and it just so surreal.
I want to say at the time, I was like, so this is just like super sick. I don't know why. Like, this guy's so nice and so good to everybody. Why would anybody make this sick joke? And it wasn't a joke. It was totally true. He had died, and like, let me make sure I read this correctly. Roger had died suddenly of internal bleeding in the abdominal cavity caused by acute pancreatitis.
Yep.
Apparently, he went to bed feeling bad one night, and the next morning he was rushed to the hospital and died. And that's it. That's all I've heard. If there's more to that story, let me know. But it was just like a sudden, shocking death.
Yeah, that's basically how I heard it. Was his friend was visiting him from Korea, and they were hanging out and stuff, and I guess he was feeling a little unwell, going to bed, and woke up the next morning just completely feeling like shit. And they rushed him to the hospital, but obviously being in Iwate, he couldn't get there fast enough, and plus with internal bleeding, like, it's a dice roll when it comes to stuff like that anyway. So yeah, unfortunately, he had a case of acute pancreatitis and died from internal bleeding complications, as far as that goes. And yeah, that's unfortunately how things ended for him. Um, so it's yeah, I remember, like I was saying earlier, just the sadness and just the kind of surrealness of it when I actually heard from Cooney, because I'd heard rumors of his passing from other people and other random accounts and stuff like that, and like Scott, I didn't believe it either. I was just thinking like, that's kind of fucked up. Why would you say that? Like, Jesus, what did this guy do? I thought he was just getting trolled or something, because there was all these kinds of death hoaxes even back then. So I was just thinking like, oh, okay, they're just playing a joke on us. Okay, whatever. Um, but then when I saw the message from Cooney, that's when it's just like, oh shit, this is for real. And it took me a while to process, because it didn't seem real, because it was just so sudden, and he was so young. He was just a year younger than me. Like, if he were still around now, he'd be what, 37 going on 38, basically. So yeah, his birthday's in December like mine, later, but yeah, he'd be 37 now. So it's just wild to think about, just how how different, you know, how much more life he had left to live. But yeah, it's on a podcast with another of my friends, Radry, on the Why Come Japan podcast, little plug. Um, he being Cooney, pronounced pal, said that Roger's passing, also kind of led to him being a bit more um, less enthused about uploading videos, because I guess he started noticing there was also more troll activity as well that kind of happened around that time, and just that plus a bunch of other things kind of you know discouraged him from uploading as much, which is very unfortunate, because again, like, Cooney was one of the OGs. He was the first regular J blogger that I followed. A lot of the others before that, well, a lot of the others, there wasn't too many at the time, but the others that I followed basically made a couple videos and they would just go off into the ether. But Cooney was the one that was making them consistently, and the quality for the time was very high. Looking at it now with 2024 eyes, yeah, it seems very basic, by today's standards, but at the time that shit was fucking revolutionary. Just how he was editing, and Roger took a lot of cues from Cooney. I think that Cooney also served as a mentor for Roger in a lot of ways, not just in YouTube, but just in life, living in Japan as somebody who's been there long term. You know, because I know that if Roger were still alive, he would have stayed in Japan long term, forever. Hard to say, but certainly a lot longer than he did. Um, and I think he really looked up to Cooney as an older brother and just somebody who kind of knows the way, basically. So I know that hurt him especially, but for me it was devastating because he was, like I said, I was just talking with him on Facebook and would send emails and comments, and sadly all the comments that I sent him were gone when Google. I don't know if you guys remember back in 2012, but Google did this comments merger with when they were trying to like merge with Google Plus to make like all the comments connected to a Google Plus account. So they ended up deleting a lot of very old comments. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And they ended up deleting my comments off of Roger's videos, so I can't even go back and look at my comments or his responses to my comments. But I still have the emails with some of them that Roger would respond to. So there's that. But yeah, I took it so rough, and I was also going through a dark period of my life at the time as well, with not being able to find a job, and I got kicked out of university 3 years prior to that, and so watching videos like Rogers and Cooney's really helped me kind of get through the day and gave me just a reason to keep going, because I know that eventually I would make my way to Japan. I didn't know how or when, but I knew eventually I'd make my way out here, and I'm proud to say that I've done that. I've, despite all the ups and downs, I'm just proud to say, despite everything, I still made it out, and a lot of it was due to Roger's influence and to Cooney's influence and to a lot of other J-vloggers' influences. Just giving me that motivation to keep going. And with Roger's death, it motivated me even more because it showed just how quickly life can be taken away. And if I were to just put off this whole Japan dream, one day I might not be able to physically do anything. Then what? Right? Just wait to die at that point. So, if you got dreams, goals, aspirations, you just gotta get to them and do it now. And that's what really gave me more of the immediacy to keep going, rather than, well, someday I'll get there. It was just more of like, I will get there someday, but I have to keep pushing. So that was that driving force for me to keep pushing.
That no one expected, no one saw coming. There was no warning signs for. It was just out of nowhere. And I mean, still to at the time, he said it was a surreal feeling. How could he be dead? I just saw him a little while ago and he looked fine. He was only 23. Yeah. An anonymous comment on one of his Reddit groups said, "I know this sounds incredibly sappy, but it was like losing a friend. I remember telling a lot of people who had no connection to him about the incident. This was someone I never met, but I felt I personally knew. I found this statement, and it does a great job of summarizing the feelings of not only myself, but all of the lives Roger touched." Other people came out and made videos about him. Dogen made a video about 4 years ago that pretty much talked about how they went to university together, how Roger was just like the most amazing guy he ever met, like just this super...
Yeah, it was a very touching tribute that Dogen made. I had totally forgotten his connection to Roger until that video, because like I remember watching him back when he was known as Dogen Tricks, and he would do like stunt work and shit like that. But it just completely slipped my mind that the guy who talks Japan very well, was that same Dogen that did all the weird flips and that Roger helped move into a homestay. But yeah, just
like gentlemen who was there to help him at every step of the way, lend a hand with writing the book that he was trying to write at the time, lend a hand with the website he was working on at the time, always dependable, helped him move to another apartment. He said just like the guy was just always there for you, and like pleasant, sweet, and
Top-notch guy.
just an amazing dude. Tokyo Sam is quoted as saying he was someone who I always wondered why I didn't go first. Why didn't I die? And he had to be the one to go, which is super sad to hear. He was the type of person who made everyone, including myself, want to be a better person in every facet of my life. His obituary says, Roger was currently employed as an assistant English teacher instructing beginning English for Japanese students at 3 separate high schools in Hanamaki while living in Japan. Roger produced a series of YouTube videos on everyday life in Japan. This series was named Iwate Swan for the district in which he lived. Roger was also currently working on translation of Japanese short stories, which will be published this summer with the aid.
Yep, see, that's what I was talking about earlier, that he was working with translation. So, I guess maybe I misspoke in that he didn't complete the translation. I think maybe his teacher at the time completed it, but he did do work on it.
Of his former professor at Western Michigan University.
Yep.
Roger enjoyed a variety of music, especially his favorite band, Depeche Mode. He was also interested in Japanese literature and other forms of Japanese culture, and had a great love for Japanese horror movies. To this day, Roger's vids still exist and are so rich with knowledge and pure distilled passion for Japan. I would definitely recommend them to anyone who's considering Japan, even though they're so old now. Like I said, the facts remain in them. The experience remains in them. The excitement for Japan remains in them, and they live on forever on YouTube, which is great. It's great to see. If I were to give my own take, and I'm going to put the notes down for a second and just talk. Roger is the antithesis of what someone should be, or how they should act, or how they should encourage others to act when they come to Japan and want to start filming and talking about it, exploring it and celebrating it. We have these YouTubers now who come there and think it's cool or funny to antagonize Japanese people. They think there's things that are great to complain about, to talk about how much better their country is at doing this or that, about these are the things you'll hate about Japan. But if I were ever to say to someone, there's a reference for how you should act, how you should film, and how you should behave while you are in Japan, learning about it, discovering it, and attempting to film it for YouTube, it would be the way Roger Swan did it. He is the OG. He is one of the original creators of what a J-vlogger is, and he was the one who did it some of the best ways you possibly could. There's no other way to put it. He is a shining antithesis of what someone should be as a J-vlogger, and how to respect what you're doing, how to respect what you're filming, and how to respect the country that you're living in, learning about, and enjoying and showing off to the world. There's no other way to put it. His legacy, Roger's family, in conjunction with Western Michigan University, started a fund to help students studying Japanese to go abroad. The website states, donations to the fund will help support...
Yeah, speaking of which, so they, the Western Michigan University had put together a scholarship, which is, I think, what this is talking about. This is kind of the early incarnation of it was more of a like a donation to the school, but it later turned into a scholarship that has sent what, gotta be 12 or 14 students, I think, because they started the scholarship a year after his death, so I think it's about like 12 or 14 students during the Cloney Macaroni era. I don't think they sent anybody, but it's sent a bunch of students just through the scholarship fund, which was started after his passing. So, which is what this is explaining.
The study of students who, like Roger, are working on Japanese language or planning to travel to Japan. Through the fund, they hope to keep alive his eagerness to foster a love for Japan and others, as well as keep his name a part of the activities of that department for years to come. Truly a remarkable person who made a massive impact in his short 23 years here on Earth.
Yeah, so, alrighty. Just give some closing thoughts here now that this part of the video is wrapped up. So yeah, very much in agreement with what Scott was saying. He was just a real shining beacon of the community, Roger was, and sadly, a lot of that has kind of fallen to the dustbin of history because, again, so many J-vloggers have come and gone since that time that a lot of Roger's contributions and legacy in that field have gone unnoticed. And I even noticed it when I was helping some people out with parties and stuff, and I would make references and they would make references to OG J-vloggers, and a lot of the newer people wouldn't have any idea what we were talking about. Like what's a Tokyo Kuni? What's an Iwate Swan? I've never heard of these people. Are they on Twitch? It's like so. Um, yeah, so it's good to see people, like Scott still remembering uh, Swan and his contributions to the community that stands today, for better or worse. But he definitely is a beacon. Roger is, for the good that the community can do and the good that we can bring to showing off Japan in the best way, not the superly overly positive way that a lot of people like to do it, or even the harsh negative way that some vloggers like to portray, but just more of that balance and that heart of things. So he's sorely missed, and it's one of those things where you just wonder, like, if you know if he were still alive today, like what would he be doing? Would he still be teaching up in Hanamaki, or would he be back in the States working on some dissertations of things, or um, roaming around somewhere else in the world? It's hard to say, but you know, I still look back on his videos very fondly, and I still kind of binge through the Tokyo Swan and the Iwate Swan every once in a while, just in remembrance. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this really long stream for me, over 3 hours. Good googly moogly. It's dark outside now, almost completely. So I usually don't stream quite this long, but yeah, just want to say thanks to you guys for tuning into the stream. Sorry I haven't been making videos on the regular. You know how it is with work and everything else getting in the way. But I do like to come on here, stream every once in a while, let you guys know I'm still around and kicking. And with that said, guys, this is Andy. Signing for now. As Roger would say, we'll see you next time. Catch you later, guys. Bye.